Let's get nasty on a Tuesday. It's the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN with Andrew Marsh. I'm Anthony Stalter, 202. Your time check is brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Jamie Rivers is sick today. We do have Dan McLaughlin in, although I don't know if Dan realizes that the show has already started. He's somewhere. He was in the meetings.
He was just here.
He was in the pre-show meetings. We discussed what we're going to talk about today, and I feel like we've got a great show. But at some point, we will need Dan McLaughlin to show up here. So
maybe he's in the bathroom.
He might be in the bathroom. Maybe he's listening right now. Marsh, kind of an interesting show that we have for today. We're going to hit a variety of topics, and we're just going to keep the ball moving. We've got the NFL trade deadline, and for those that maybe weren't listening beforehand and listened to BK and Ferrario, the Commanders have traded Chase Young to the 49ers. Yesterday, we got the question of who's going to be the biggest name that is dealt, and I said, well, I don't think we're going to see Derrick Henry dealt. I don't think we're going to see Saquon Barkley traded. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're going to see a quarterback moved. I think Chase Young is probably the biggest name that we'll see, although your guys also made a deal.
Man.
The Vikings acquired Joshua Dobbs from the Arizona Cardinals. Yes, the Joshua Dobbs who showed up to Arizona. Hey, there's Dan. Hey. We were worried about you, buddy.
Don't be worried.
Okay. It's the same Joshua Dobbs that showed up to Arizona, and nobody expected him to start, and he did immediately. Played well in Washington. Led him to a near upset over the Giants, and then an actual upset over Dallas, and has played pretty well, all things considered. So the Vikings acquired him from Arizona so that they have somebody competent to replace Kirk Cousins.
How about what San Francisco has done?
Chase Young.
I like it.
The rich get richer. Now, I know the 49ers, the 49ers have lost the last 3 weeks, but their defense is a problem. Their defense has been a problem the last couple of weeks.
I'm shocked that they've lost a couple of games and a chance at a 3-game losing streak. They were my pick to win the Super Bowl after what I saw in the beginning of the season. But I think when you get through maybe the midway point, you know better than I, but when you start watching teams and they're not as efficient, maybe they start running the ball a little bit more, they're not passing as much, and the number one thing is injuries. If you can stay somewhat injury-free, then you're okay. But, other teams emerge on the schedule that you wouldn't expect. All those things happen, and it makes it fun in the NFL. I'm going to say this. Look, I miss the NFL. Yeah. God, I miss it because I can't turn my back away from it. I can't not watch a game.
It sucks.
I'm all over it.
It sucks what happened. It did. I mean, it sucks that we lost a good fan base to not watching anymore because of what Stan Kroenke did. The product, the players, the excitement, the week-to-week
build-up.
The build-up.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
It is.
But overall, let's just look at this in sports. What the 49ers have done in adding to their roster. This is how you build a championship roster. I'm not saying they're going to win, but the Eagles did this a year ago. Remember, because they brought in Ndamukong Suh. They brought in Linval Joseph. They knew they had a really good defensive line. They didn't sit on their hands. They knew that they could get it better, and they could have a rotation along their D front that was going to be very difficult for opponents in the postseason, and it worked.
How about with the Niners, though? Cornerstone tackle. He's been hurt, though. Last week he was hurt. He's out.
You're talking about Brown? You're talking about the offensive tackle?
Yeah. Cornerstone tackle. Go out and get McCaffrey, who is a difference maker, clearly, in what he does. And now adding what they've done overall, I mean, I'm with you. You don't sit back. You say, let's go for it. In sports, in my mind, there are so few opportunities to win.
Yeah.
Unless you have endless pockets, and even that doesn't work all the time. Just throwing money at situations. But if you have a chance to win, by God, you go for it.
For sure.
You go for it because you're not sure when you're going to be in that spot again. And it could be a long time.
The 40
I said Orlando Brown. I meant Trent Williams.
Yes.
That's what their offense tackle.
Do the 49ers remind you of the Los Angeles Dodgers? They're always competitive. It seems like they always have the biggest names on their team, but for some reason, they just can't get over the hump. Now, I know the Dodgers won in 2020.
Yeah.
Whatever. That was a shortened season, and that season actually played to their favor because if you look at the long term, the Dodgers have always been good in the regular season. Then you extend it. What do they play, like 50, 60 games? I don't really count that. Obviously, if you're a Dodgers fan, you do. But when we're looking at just a normal season, it seems like they're always in the mix, but they just can't get it done. And I feel like the 49ers are the same reason. And why is that?
That's a good comp, I think, recently. I think the Ravens kind of fall into that category, too, of always having a good team and just kind of coming up short.
The Niners, though, tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, they had a stretch of years where they were down. I mean, they were down. They were not a good team. That was not a team that you looked at on your schedule and said, uh-oh. I don't know about you guys, but anytime the Cardinals are facing the Dodgers, I think, uh-oh.
Yeah.
You're going to get a lot of good pitching. You're going to get a good lineup, and you're going to get consistency for the most part. Now, for whatever reason as to why they don't win in postseason play, I don't know what that answer would be. I mean, Clayton Kershaw isn't as effective. Even in his prime, he wasn't as effective as he is in the regular season. That could be a major point of emphasis because he's going to get probably 2 starts in a series. So it kind of falls on whether it's fair or not. It's going to fall on his shoulders. But I don't know. There's just I look at the Dodgers and I say, uh-oh, this is going to be problems. Where I at least think the 49ers had somewhat of a downtime. Right. Somewhat.
And I'm more so looking at the Kyle Shanahan years, right?
Yeah.
Because they had a track record.
Now that's different, yeah.
Right. They had a track record of having a new coach like every 2 years, it seemed like, in those down years that you were just talking about.
It was every year for a second there.
Yeah.
When Harbaugh left, they brought in Chip Kelly for a year, fired him, replaced him with Tom Sula, who was awful. Replaced him for a year. And then I brought this up before with ownership. They realized that they were part of the problem because they kept hiring people and then firing them. So they gave Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch 6-year deals.
Yeah.
It's unheard of. Normally you get a 4-year deal if you're a coach and a GM. 4 years, after year 3, man, you're on the hot seat if you haven't done anything.
And prior to all those guys, wasn't it Mike Singletary?
Singletary was, I think, before Harbaugh, but I could be wrong on that.
That's
Let's look that up.
I did an event with Mike Singletary about 4 months ago, and I did bring up the Vernon Davis thing. Can't win with him. Mm-hmm. Can't do this, can't do that. And he said the next day, Vernon Davis was, isn't it Vernon Davis, right? The tight end?
Tight end Vernon Davis, yep.
Yeah, and he came in his
Maryland.
office. That's right. Good call. He said, you know what, Coach, you're right. I'm at fault, and you're trying to make me better, and I want to be the best.
That's awesome.
So I apologize to you. You probably never heard that story.
I've never heard that.
Isn't that cool?
That's maturity.
100%.
I think that's fantastic. I think that's great. How difficult is it? I mean, we know this in our own lives. How difficult is it to say, that you're right, that's all on me?
Yeah. You're just trying to make me better.
Yeah.
And if I'm better, our team is better.
Yep.
He said, I want to win. And I, reflect on it. And you're right. I need to be catching balls nonstop after practice. Nonstop. Because he told him, he said, if you want to be any better, you better be getting on the jugs machine and just firing footballs at you and catch the ball.
That repetition.
Stay after practice and start doing it. And then that's what led into the whole, the sound bites now that are famous with Mike Singletary.
Yeah.
He was awesome, by the way. He came in town. He was great.
So it was Singletary. Then when he was fired, Tom Sula was the interim. Then Harbaugh. Then Tom Sula for 1 year. Went 5-11. Then it was Chip Kelly. I had those two flipped. Chip Kelly went 2-14. They fired him. Hired Kyle Shanahan in 2017 after he was the OC for the Falcons in the infamous 28-3 Super Bowl. And he's 57-47 in the regular season for the Niners, a .548 win percentage. And he is 6-3 in the playoffs. Of course, the one Super Bowl loss. He's done a remarkable job. Now, he's got his work cut out for him now, but again, the 49ers adding talent, and we'll continue to tell you about the NFL trade deadline if anything else breaks. Let's throw out predictions, though. I think this is it. I don't think we see another significant move between now and the deadline at 3 o'clock.
What about Derrick Henry?
I say no. I don't think he's moved. I don't think Derrick Henry's moved. I don't think Saquon Barkley's moved. I don't think Davante Adams has moved.
I think Davante could be. I think he could be. After what happened on the sidelines last night, as vocal as he has been about the fact that they are not targeting him enough, he's not getting enough catches, all that kind of stuff. How about what he did last night? Did you guys watch that?
I did.
It was Jimmy G needs to be fired. He needs to be benched.
Same thing.
Hand it over to Aiden O'Connell, the rookie.
What do you have to lose?
I respect Jimmy G. I respected what he did with San Francisco. He's terrible. He is terrible in this offense. He looks scattershot. The one he threw late to Davante Adams when the game was still somewhat in reach. Like, I didn't think the Raiders were going to win that game. But the game was still somewhat in reach.
It was a 2-score game.
When Jimmy G airmailed Adams with about 6 minutes to go.
Here's the thing, though.
Could have been a touchdown.
If you bench Jimmy G, and to me, he is your best chance to win. And if I'm Josh McDaniel, I'm coaching with 9 lives right now, and I'm on 8.5.
You're done. Yeah,
because he's already had a spot.
Yep.
And he becomes, the great coordinators that can't be a head coach, and he's going to get that label.
That's correct.
Well, it might be an 8 2/3, maybe 8 3/4 of the 9 lives. I don't know.
He has to get rid of the ball. Like, fourth down, they had multiple fourth downs.
How do you take a set?
Why? What do you just throw the ball up?
Yep.
At least
throw the ball 4 yards. Kirk Cousins in
at
the
least Kirk Cousins that thing,
Just
and
get rid of the ball.
He did at the end when they had the fourth and 13, and my man threw it 4 yards.
Just throw it.
And Amir Abdul is trying to do it. Yeah.
Pick 6 got some people a little worried last night. I don't know if you know what I was talking about or if you saw it. It just, that was great for certain people.
They got within that spread, didn't they?
Sure did.
That's Dan McLaughlin.
Not that I have friends that, of course,
sure.
Not you. Watching for the pure enjoyment of gladiators.
No, they're modern day gladiators.
That's the sports equinox.
Absolutely.
You gotta turn a game on.
Yeah. Speaking of the sports equinox, the Rangers, they win, but are they in trouble moving forward? That discussion next on 101 ESPN.
Smashes the ball down the line. Goodbye. 3-0 Texas.
That home run also propelled Jamie to a victory in our home run derby.
Uh-oh.
We finally ended the tiebreaker, Dan.
Yeah.
We had to choose 4 players on each team, giving us 8 total just to end this puppy. And Corey Seager, with that blast last night, propelled Jamie Rivers to victory. And he decided to take the day off to celebrate.
Well, he sure did, and I'm in here, and I'm happy to be here, excited to be here. I don't know if the rest of the country is very excited about the World Series. I saw Game 1 was the lowest-rated World Series game in the history of the World Series.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm usually wrong on a lot of things. You guys know this. I said this will be one of the lowest-rated World Series in MLB history.
I agreed with you. I mean, there's not a bunch of storylines.
Yeah. Not that it's not competitive. The 3 games outside of Game 2.
I thought Game 1 was great.
Game 1 was great.
Great ending.
Last night was at least tight.
Mm-hmm. And you don't have major markets. I mean, now you got Dallas, Fort Worth. You know, that's a major market. I need to take that back. But if you were Major League Baseball, you were praying to get the Phillies in this thing.
Yes.
And the Phillies had an identity of being just a bunch of guys hitting home runs. Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner.
Yeah.
You had some names with that.
Some dudes.
Yeah. Where this one, if you ask somebody outside of the top 2 pitchers for Arizona, starters, who would they go with? I don't think the general sports fan, even some baseball fans, would know.
No.
And I like what the commissioner said the other day. He said, we need to get back to a starter going deeper into games, figuring out how to do that, and make it marquee matchups. So, for instance, I remember in 2005, Cardinals go down to Houston. It's still when Clemens was pitching well. Chris Carpenter was pitching outstanding, was probably the leader in the clubhouse at that point, for lack of a better term, but for the Cy Young. And they got matched up on the same day in September. And in Houston, Carpenter outdueled him. If you were a baseball fan, you were like, I cannot wait to sit down and watch this matchup of Roger Clemens and Chris Carpenter. Carpenter won that game, and he won the Cy Young in 2005. The point being is that you don't have those matchups, and that's a problem right now for Major League Baseball.
Dan, I think you're spot on. I don't know. I'd love to hear from Marsh, who's younger than, way younger than you and I, Dan. It's to hear how he views the game. But I remember when, I was born in the 80s, but my baseball was the 90s, basically. And late 80s, and then all throughout the 90s. That's what I would consider like my baseball. And the first time I saw Will Clark take a swing was as I don't know if he was a rookie in 89 or maybe just a second-year player. He faced
86, I think.
86, so he'd been in the league for a couple of years.
Yeah.
He and the Giants faced Tony's A's in the World Series. It was the Earthquake Series. But I watched him against the Cubs in the NLCS, and Will Clark took him behind the woodshed. Like they couldn't get him out. It was one of the prettiest baseball swings I ever saw. So Will Clark's my favorite. But you know what I was keyed in on as I went to games throughout the 90s? Who was pitching?
Yeah.
Who was pitching? My buddies cared about that. I cared about that. Yeah, we wanted to see our favorite players. But if we were going to the game, I wanted to know. I would even do the schedule thing. I'm like, okay, this is going to be this guy, this guy, this guy. Oh, man, I got to see him.
Yeah.
And or this guy, this guy. Yes, I get to watch the ace. I cared about the starting pitcher more than anything, or the starting pitching matchup. That was intriguing. And I wonder if younger fans are missing out on that.
Me personally, and I'm obviously not going to speak for all the young people out there, but I just like smart baseball. I don't care how you get it done. I just like smart baseball. Move runners over.
Game 1 of the World Series was like that.
Absolutely. And that ended up being a very exciting game. Obviously, it took till the last inning, essentially, to tie the game and then go into extras. But it was an exciting game. But just smart baseball, whether that is pitching matchups, like you guys were talking about, knowing how to use a bullpen correctly. Yeah. Now, it's a little different because you have the three batter minimum, which I'm not really that big of a fan of, to be honest. But I know it speeds the game up. But moving runners over, and the home run is awesome, right? But I like my home run after, there's been a few doubles hit or there's, the line's moving, and then the tension, you can sense something building, and then boom, home run, and that just breaks the game open.
But let me ask you this, though, Marsh. As a young Andrew Marsh in the 2000s, right? Because that would be your baseball, correct?
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
Okay. So young Andrew Marsh in the 2000s.
I will say
I can't say you can't tell me you're thinking I want to watch smart baseball now as an educated baseball. But the young Marsh, what drew you in? Because I think Dan brings up an interesting point here about what Rob Manfred said.
Honestly, I think the names. Right, I think
the bigger names.
The bigger names. So my first World Series that I can really remember was the 2002 World Series between the Giants and the Angels. So right after that, as my brain is growing, right, that's when the Cardinals were really good. 2004, 2005, 2006. Yeah. Those were my prime baseball years, which really made me love the game and love this team, the Cardinals. And those teams had just big boppers, but they also had guys that could get on base. They had great fielding. We had great pitching. Like, they just had the whole package, right? And you played Houston, and Houston, like, I don't know, for a while they weren't that great, but they had great hitters. They had the killer bees, and they had great pitching. And that was a great rivalry. So I love the rivalries, the rivalry between the Red Sox and the Yankees, which right now, in my opinion, isn't that great. And I feel like baseball needs those rivalries back. And just the postseason itself was just so much more exciting.
I about fell out of my chair the other day. I was shocked at watching the Phillies game. Trey Turner is up. And in this day and age of baseball, he's going to walk into his fair share of home runs, okay? And he's up there, and there's a runner at second base, and he tried to drop down a bunt. Not a bunt for a hit. It was a sacrifice attempt. I was shocked when I saw that. I was like, what is he doing? And I loved it, but I was like, what is he doing in this day and age of baseball? Yeah. This is one of your premier guys, and I think extra innings is a perfect example. How many times do you see him bunt him over to third? Never. So there you have a man at second, under 2 outs, and he's bunting. And I thought, this is great. I thought, what is he doing? But I thought, this is awesome. This is the way the game is played. And I real quickly, I emceed a luncheon today with Ozzie Smith, the great wizard. And so we were talking about, I said, what about today's game against the time that you played? And he's not one of those guys that's get off my lawn. Yeah. He's like, well, the game's changed. He said, but I do miss generating offense, bunting, and I miss hitting behind and doing the various things that you can do to generate. And I mean, you look at the teams in the 80s. That's how they did it. And I think now, looking ahead to what we're doing now and what we see right now, and this will be interesting in how teams build, because we're talking about in the office, it's a copycat league. But Arizona runs, and you never see running anymore. But look at where the league average was to what they're doing in the postseason. They are putting pressure on the defense. They are aggressive. When they get guys on, you're thinking they may do something. It's not just sitting back and waiting for a 3-run homer. And I think that's part of the problem of the game right now.
And we were talking about this in the office. I asked you guys, the World Series is a different animal, and we see small ball because every pitch matters. Well, why are we not seeing this in the regular season? What's the difference?
Well, let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Because I think you pose a very interesting question. Real quick, though, and I do want to get back into that. So Adolis Garcia was removed from last night's game. Oblique injury, side tightness.
Those are nasty. That's not good.
If he can't go tonight, or if he can't go the rest of the series, to project a little bit, how much are the Rangers in trouble, or are they?
I'd say I'm more concerned about Max Scherzer. So
over Garcia?
Well, when you look at, and I understand starters only go 2 times through a lineup, but he's the kind of guy that if you get late into the World Series, he can shut down an opposing lineup, and he's slowly getting there. I don't think he looks like the Scherzer that normally you see when he's out there, but I think that could be a major factor moving forward. Garcia is big. With what he's done, he's been amazing. Don't get me wrong and take it the wrong way, but don't overlook Scherzer and having one more start, and if he can make it, what that could do for their team.
I will say John Gray, though, has been pitching excellent for the Rangers, and if they need him to start Game 7,
sure,
I would be okay with that if I was a Rangers fan.
And tonight, we have the game for you. Diamondbacks-Rangers Game 4, pregame starting right after our show at 6 o'clock.
It's a hell of a tease. That just worked right into the segment.
It's a transit. They call it a transition in the biz, Dan.
That was really nice.
Thank you.
Well
I appreciate that. Yeah, Andrew Heaney against Joe Mantiply. It'll be a bullpen game for each team tonight. Again, you can listen to it right here on 101 ESPN. So Marsh just talked about kind of the Diamondbacks and how every team plays, not just the Diamondbacks, but how teams play in the postseason compared to the regular season and why they don't stick with it in the regular season. Let's get into that discussion next here in the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN.
I love that transition. That may be the transition of the year.
ESPN Sports Center.
I'm Andrew Marsh. It's time for a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Last night in Game 3 of the World Series, the Texas Rangers defeated the Arizona Diamondbacks 3-1. Game 4 will be tonight. You can listen to it right here on 101 ESPN. Pre-game starts at 6 o'clock. Also, Monday Night Football between the Lions and the Raiders. The Lions took down Las Vegas 26-14. We talked about the NFL trade deadline at the beginning of the show. If you missed that, make sure you go to 101ESPN.com or check out the free 101 mobile app. You can find our full show there. It's all brought to you by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. The Blues will be in action action tomorrow, taking on the Colorado Avalanche. Pregame starts at 7:30. Puck drop is at 8:30. Catch all the action right here on 101 ESPN. We'll talk with Joe Vitale at 4:45, so stay tuned for that one. I'm Andrew Marsh, and the Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff. Funny roads and shop 24/7 at londoff.com and londoffAutoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
With Dan McLaughlin filling in for Jamie Rivers, who's out sick, and Andrew Marsh. I'm Anthony Stalter. It's Fastlane on 101 ESPN. So Marsh posed an interesting question in the last segment, talking about the Diamondbacks and the way they run and the way they use small ball. But you had expanded it a little bit more because Dan brought up the Trey Turner at bat where he laid down a bunt in one of the recent playoff games. So teams, and Marsh, you're right about this, teams tend to play a little bit differently in the postseason because they know every out matters. Every run opportunity matters. So why don't teams play that way every single game? Dan, you've been observing, calling, watching baseball for a long time. Why do you think that is?
It's a good question. I've asked that same question for a long time. I think teams in all sports, I don't know if you guys agree with this, but I think it changes when they get to postseason play. I think sometimes they try to figure out who they are through various points of a season. So, for instance, you'll have a guy come up, young player, and you want to find out more about him. You got 162 games. Are they trying to win every game? You bet they are. But am I trying to figure out who I have and can he handle pressure or can he hit behind a runner? Can I get a sac fly out of him? Can I get a bunt out of him? And I think you play it differently at times in the regular season because of that, especially with younger players. But to your point, I do think that outs are at a premium more so. And I think it's just part of human nature. You're like, look, we got 162. Let's find out a little bit more about Anthony. I want to find out a little bit more about Marshy. Can he do it in this spot? Yeah. And the other thing is it's magnified in postseason play. It just is. You're watching every out. You're watching every game, and it's magnified. I don't know if I'm answering that properly.
No, I think you are. I wonder, Dan, if it's, like you said, it's 162 games.
Yeah.
I think all teams want to play a certain way. How much do you want to emphasize every single at-bat, every single play?
And that's kind of what I'm getting at.
They're human beings. I mean, as a fan, you want to think that way. As a fan, it's like, yeah, I want my Cardinals players locked in every single play, every count, everything matters until you watch them fade in August and September because they're gassed.
You're getting to where I'm trying to go.
Yeah. I think I thought I had a read on what you were saying, and turns out you and I are on the same page here.
Same page. I wish teams ran more, and the running game was up this year because of the bigger bags and the various things that they're trying to do to increase offense. So I did see it more, but I wanted to see it more than that.
Yeah.
I thought we'd have way more running than we did. Now, there was an increase, don't get me wrong, and I think that's good for the game, but I'd like to see even more. It's not a get off my lawn. I just think it's a more entertaining product when you've got movement, you've got action, you've got people not sitting back and waiting for a 3-run homer.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for people like me that want to see that type of game that's more running, more activity, more movement, I just don't see that we're going to go that way. I really don't.
It's kind of like if we expand this to other sports, baseball has become, not the postseason, but the regular season, baseball has become a very limited offense. It'd be like in basketball where you only wait until you get the three-point opportunity. I realize that the three-pointer has become big in basketball, and maybe this is a problem, eventually going to be a problem too in basketball. But maybe football is a better example. It's like, yeah, we run the ball on first and second down, and then we hope to hit the big play on third down. Yeah. And it's the same offense over and over and over. It gets boring. You've got so many different variations.
Did you watch Vegas last night?
Yes, exactly. You got so many different formations. You have motion. You have, ways that you can expand your offense. You don't have to just sit in one sandbox and only play in the sandbox. You get the whole damn playground, right? But in baseball, That's what they're doing essentially. Is just waiting for the home run, as opposed to you have different plays within your playbook that you could be utilizing, and they just don't. And maybe it's a personnel problem.
But that's it. You just hit it on the head. I think it's personnel, and I think it's how you build your team and build your lineup. The game now is dictated on power pitching, strikeouts, guys that can hit the ball in the gap, and guys that hit home runs. And you just don't see a lot of teams that are built around speed. If you get it, it's a bonus, but the way the game is played is to hit home runs. Yeah. So primarily, home run hitters are not your speed guys, and that's missing unless you're Ronald Acuna Jr. and you can do both. But there aren't a lot of guys falling off trees like him. He was awesome this year.
I wonder if it's one of those things where, you get a guy on first base, but because there's so much swing and miss these days, if you try and do a hit and run, let's say it's a 2-1 count, and you want to hit and run because the guy at bat is, he's most likely going to ground into a double play or something.
That goes back to personnel.
Right, exactly. I just, if you get that guy on second with 1 or no outs, that's just so much more pressure on a pitcher that a base hit will end up most likely scoring that run, and that could be the difference in a game, which ultimately could be the difference if you make the playoffs. I mean, look at the Diamondbacks, and look what the Cubs did. If the Cubs would have won one game out of the last 20 games that they were terrible, they would be in the playoffs right now, and the Diamondbacks would not even be in the World Series. Wouldn't even be talking about this.
Well, to your point is when you get a guy in scoring position, a pitcher will pitch differently.
Absolutely.
He's going to change up his repertoire. There's going to be a different approach with the guy at the plate. It's just, and it goes back to the general statement of putting on pressure on the defense. And I don't think we see that enough. I think you sit back and wait for a home run. Defense kind of sits there themselves, and that's the way it goes. I love the game of baseball, guys. I love it, whether it's this style of play or the style that I grew up watching, which was late 70s, early 80s, and then beyond. And I love the game. I don't like the fact that our younger generation probably doesn't enjoy it as much as a person like me that grew up watching that style of play. And I think if more people saw that, I do think – and that's why they're going with these rules to try to change it and make it quicker. I do think we'd probably get more baseball fans.
Yeah.
Now, Marshy made a great point before is well, who are the biggest names in the sport? And that's the greater question of trying to market your sport with these big names. We have more athletes in baseball right now, and I mean true athletes playing the sport, than we've ever had. Unfortunately, you don't know about them. They play 162. They're playing every single night. You're not seeing a ton on them, or when you did with Fernando Tatis Jr., he gets popped for the steroids or whatever was going on. Yeah. But, that's unfortunate for the game. It goes back to the bigger question of who do you market as stars? I mean, Mike Trout is going to go down as one of the great players ever, and you don't hear anything about him.
No.
He's only been in the playoffs one time.
Yeah.
And that was, 9 years ago?
So that begs the question, too. Are superstars born in the postseason?
Part of it.
I mean, you think about Matthew Tkachuk last year. I thought we saw a superstar in the making. Great player, great young player. I wouldn't call him a superstar until he did what he did in the postseason. Garcia this year, good play. It turned out he's been with the Rangers for quite a while now. Good player.
Rosarina
started to become Rosarina as well. Started to become a superstar. Or a star, maybe not a superstar, because that's another level. We'll just call them stars. Tkachuk star, Garcia star, or Rosarina star. Why? Because they did it on the national stage when the stakes were at its highest.
I think you could call him a superstar. Like when I think of, you use Matthew Tkachuk as an example. When I think of superstars in the NHL, who do I think of? I think of Austin Matthews. I think of Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
What have they done in the playoffs?
True.
Obviously, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl have done really well in the playoffs from a point total standpoint. But what have they done team-wise? They haven't done anything. And same with Austin Matthews. Last year, it looked like you couldn't even find him.
What do you guys think of when you think
he's
of
a superstar?
Reggie Jackson?
Mr. October.
Mr. October.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of his 3 home run game. Now, he had 586 home runs. So don't get me wrong. He's a Hall of Famer. He was a hell of a player.
But for someone like me, that
is the snapshot, right?
The snapshot is he is Mr. October. He hit 3 home runs in one game.
Okay, so
that is my Reggie Jackson.
So add to it.
That's my point that you just made.
What play do you think of with Derek Jeter?
I think of the Oakland A's one or the one where he went into the stands and was all bloody.
I also think of his Mr. November home run.
Yeah.
Remember the World Series got pushed back and they hit Byung-Hun Kim, I think, was on the mound for Arizona, and he hits a home run. They said, now he's Mr. November.
Yes.
But those are the three plays. The Oakland one, though, is the one I think of probably more than any of the plays that he's a part of.
Yeah.
And so I was actually having this conversation with a buddy of mine in talking about Derek Jeter. When I think of Derek Jeter, I think of him being like some great shortstop, making great plays. Apparently, he wasn't even that great of a shortstop.
You know, I hate that because he was, look, he stayed at shortstop the entire time of his career. And normally those guys move to third or move to second. You know, they kind of transition. Derek Jeter played into his late 30s, if not his 40s, right, at shortstop. You remember Derek Jeter in the 90s. When he first came up, he was an absolute stud at the position. I don't care what the metrics say. That guy, I used to try to emulate
He's a great player.
His
No
jump throw from deep in the hole. I tried to do that
That's the other iconic thing. Yes.
Over. He was a stud defender early on in his career.
And think about, Marshy brought up a great point earlier, but Boston, New York was so much fun to watch in the postseason. And so who was always in the postseason? Derek Jeter.
Sure.
And you saw him on the biggest stage.
Yep.
Jason Varitek is another one I think about of just they would focus on him. Rarely do you see somebody wearing the C in baseball. He had the C. He was the leader of the Red Sox, and they won in 04, 07, and again in 13.
Yeah.
He's there. Big Papi. What do you think about with him? I think about with
Don't pitch to him.
definitely that in 13.
Please.
But when the Red Sox are down 3-0, Big Papi's the guy popping home runs, and he's the one that gets the postseason hero, you know, that kind of thing.
Or even Albert. You know, we think about Albert's, obviously last year maybe changed a little bit, but what do you think of with Albert? What's the one moment?
It's the Brad Lidge moment.
It's the Brad Lidge moment.
Yeah. It is the one that defines him. And he had a 3-home run game in the World Series. And no one talks about it.
No one talks about it. Everybody talks about the moonshot off of Brad Lidge.
Yeah.
Acquired that. They didn't even win that series.
Yeah. They lost in 05. In Game 6, Roy Oswalt came down and shut him out.
They
And
got
then
smoked.
within hours, you had guys doing wheelies and like treading and shredding up the outfield with their cars because Busch Stadium was getting demolished.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
How about that?
Guys were doing, seriously, shredding the outfield in the grass.
Jeez. The beautiful manicured grass.
Yes, it was
shredded.
sad.
Yeah.
It was sad.
It's a Fast Lane on 101 at ESPN. I'll tell you what else is sad, the Raiders offense. But if you are a fan of football, there is one team, and I'm sorry, I was very slow to jump on the bandwagon, and then Jamie threw me right off of it. But if you're a fan of football, and what the Lions are doing, you'd be a fan of the evolution of the Lions. I'll get into that next on 101 ESPN. Dan McLaughlin and Andrew Marsh. I'm Anthony Stalter. Dana Mack filling in for Jamie Rivers today. The Raiders are absolutely putrid. I don't know how many times do we have to see them in a primetime spot.
When does it start flexing and all that stuff?
Not soon enough, Dan.
When does it start?
Not soon enough.
Get
Check
them
this out, too. Oh, I clicked on the Raiders. I clicked on the Chiefs. I'm like, they've got more opportunities coming up. Yeah, well, the Chiefs do. The Raiders play a Sunday night game against the Jets in 2 weeks.
Oh, take the under on that, wouldn't you?
I might take
even
the
if
night
the under,
off.
even if
Could
the
be
under was
5-0.
16.5, I might take the under. But they played the Steelers on Sunday Night Football.
Take the under on that, too.
They probably cashed. It already played, but it probably cashed. But anyways, Devontae Adams, I would love to. I don't think he will. I would love to see Devontae Adams get traded. He might be the one player out of anybody in the NFL that if I had like this magic NFL trade deadline wish list, I think Adams would be at the top.
And what are we, about 9 minutes away?
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to happen.
Where would you want him to go?
That's a good question, Marsh. Who would be you know who I'd love to see him go to? Honestly, is the Chiefs.
I was just going to say Kansas City.
It wouldn't happen. And honestly,
They need him, though.
Rashee Rice he's a rookie, and he's turning into maybe a go-to guy. He had a play on Sunday in that ugly game against the Broncos where he caught a pass, streamed up the sidelines, and instead of going out of bounds, ran over one of the Broncos defensive backs. He looks good, but I would love to see Adams in a Chiefs uniform.
I need you guys to explain something to me, and I'm sure it's common sense. Why is Tyreek Hill not with the Chiefs?
Money.
I get it. Don't you find a way to keep him?
So
how?
This is what happens when you're paying a quarterback.
I know, but tell me a way I can keep him. Mahomes has been awesome this year. He's the reason that they're where they're at.
Yeah.
But tell me why I couldn't keep Tyreek.
You know why they couldn't keep him?
Don't give me the sensible answer.
You know why they couldn't keep him, Dan? Because both Patrick Mahomes, and he got paid a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but Patrick Mahomes took a below-market deal for what Mahomes could have got.
He got over $500 million.
He got a lot of money, but the way they structured it was that he could have made a lot more. Travis Kelce should be paid like Tyreek Hill. He took less money so that the team could operate under the cap.
Give me Tyreek.
Tyreek Hill, he wanted to get paid. No problem with that. He's one of the best players in the league. He should be paid like one of the best players in the league. But if you're Kansas City and Mahomes is taking less,
give me
and Kelsey's taking less.
Tyreek in Kansas City.
Same thing happened to Chris Jones.
Chris
Jones came in. He's like, "Hey, give me a new contract." They're like, "I can't. You got Kelsey and Mahomes taking less, so that we can have a competitive team." And at the end of the day, that's why Hill was traded to Miami.
Well, I think he also wanted to prove that he could win without Pat Mahomes.
How's he doing with that?
I mean, they're doing
They're
pretty good.
Won the Super Bowl last year?
Okay.
I'm sorry. Did Miami? I forgot.
It's been 1 year.
Easy with the
Miami won the
facts.
Super Bowl?
Their quarterback got injured.
Do they even win a playoff game?
I don't want to hear about the facts. I just
Actually,
want
they almost
Tyreek back
did.
with the Chiefs.
They played Buffalo pretty tight, despite starting, I think, Skylar Thompson or whatever.
Oh,
They
yeah, I
did.
forgot about him.
Now, Miami's defense they're starting to get healthy.
Yes.
If Miami's defense can
and you see
get...
Jalen Ramsey interception on Sunday. By the way, the Bills have acquired cornerback Rasul Douglas and a 5th-round pick from the Packers for a 3rd-round pick. So another smaller
Speaking
deal.
of the Bills, we never really got into this, but Leonard Fournette to Buffalo. I wonder how that will end up changing things for the Bills.
I love James Cook, but James Cook is not he's a smaller back, and he's somebody that will wear down. I think Leonard Fournette's a pretty good complement to James Cook, provided that Cook still gets his touches.
Just too much pressure on Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And this might be the final go for that team. You know?
That window, it feels like that window is closing.
Yeah.
By the way, before we transition to something else here, what the Lions are doing, it's fun to watch.
I agree.
If you're paying attention... And I have been, and you guys know this, I've been critical. I was critical of Dan Campbell last year because while everybody was talking about the kneecap biting and all that stuff, there was a couple of games where he mismanaged in the final minutes. And he admitted that and corrected the problem in the second half last year, including in the Green Bay game. There was a moment in the Green Bay game, week 18 or whatever, the last game of the year, where he had an opportunity to make the right decision based on the down, distance, and clock. And he learned from a previous loss to the Vikings, I believe, earlier in the year. Mm-hmm. Dan Campbell evolved as a head coach. He didn't just sit there and say, no, I know what I'm doing. Blah, 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 blah. He evolved. The Lions are evolving. Don't take Jamar Gibbs in the first damn round and not use that kid. And when Montgomery got hurt, they could have balanced it out a little bit more, maybe went more pass heavy. Last night, they fed that kid the rock, and you saw what he did with it.
I'm going to give you a date. You ready? January 8th of 1994. January 8th, 1994.
Okay.
Last time the Detroit hosted a playoff game.
Okay.
1994.
It's been a minute.
So they're going to get in this year.
Who's their quarterback? Scott Mitchell?
Had to be. Had to be Scott Mitchell.
Had to be Scotty Mitchell. Or like Rodney Peete on his last legs.
Left-handed Scott Mitchell, and then Rodney Peete. I think his wife might be more famous than Rodney Peete.
Yes. She was on, what TV show was she on?
Was she on The View?
She might have been on The View.
I should know that. I'd never missed The View.
Yeah.
God, I love that
all
show.
installments of The View.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who's hosting.
No,
Dan's in.
No,
Scott
books, everything.
Speaking of Scott Mitchell, you probably have, Marsh, you have no idea who that is.
No idea who you're talking about.
So he was a quarterback who
Big,
played.
tall, lanky dude.
Yeah.
Could slink it.
Yes.
Sling it, not slink it.
He could slink it, too.
You have a slinky? Remember those things?
I saw one the other day, in fact.
You're watching the Falcons-Jaguars game.
That's right. Yeah, Slinky Dog. Anyway, Scott Mitchell, I was listening to, it was a Friday night, and he was calling a game. He went to Oregon State. And he was, I think he went to Oregon State.
Oh, yeah, he was a Pac-10 guy at that point.
Yeah, he was an Oregon State guy. So he's the color analyst for Oregon State.
Is he really?
Yes.
It's interesting when you go on. So do you have Sirius or XM,
yes,
whatever?
That's how I heard him. So I was bouncing around. It was a Friday night. I was going to Target at like 9 or 9:30 at night because we didn't have a gift for one of the many birthday parties that I think Madeline was going to. So I raced out. We got the kids down, and Kristen's like, I forgot the gift. I'm like.
I'll go do it.
So I went to Target, and I'm buzzing her. I'm like, what game is on? It was Oregon State, and that's how I found it on Sirius.
I love listening to those football games because you'll get an analyst all the time. And you're like, wait a minute. I know that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Scott Mitchell. Well, of course.
Right.
You get the random dude that played there, and I enjoy that.
Yeah,
I think it's fun.
It's fun.
By the way, real quick, text line wanted us to not forget Sam Laporta, who's been pretty damn good for the Lions so far.
Yeah.
So I got yelled at by
local dude, right?
He went to Highland. He went to Highlands, right across the river. Sam Laporta, who scored a touchdown last night. He's having an outstanding rookie season. So I got called to the mat there when Kerry Davis and I were hosting Gridiron Guys. And I was critical, and so was Kerry, but I was critical of the Lions draft. I said, you traded out of that spot. You could have had Jalen Carter. You traded out. You took a running back in the first round, and everybody knows I think running backs in the first round is poor value. And then they took an off-ball linebacker in Jack Campbell. In the second round, I said, you took Sam Laporta, and very, great prospect, but somebody that played in line at Iowa. Iowa doesn't throw the ball much. So you took, really, from a roster building standpoint, a running back, a middle linebacker who doesn't rush the passer, and then, a tight end. And one of our listeners, very critical of me because I didn't talk about how he was from Highland. He's a local product, right? There's nothing against Sam Laporta. It was the Lions' thought process, right?
In roster construction.
I have my opinions on it. I still felt that way. Clearly, I was wrong about the roster construction standpoint. But ever since this listener, kind of called me out for it, I said, okay, look, I'll become more aware of kind of the local product. Because I forget sometimes how invested people are in the local product. Sam Laporta is having a great year. So I thank that listener for calling me out and saying,
are you sure about that?
That he's having a great year?
No, that you're thankful about it. Okay.
I am. No, he was critical. Yeah, I think he was critical for the wrong reasons. He's like, I'm never going to listen to you again. You didn't.
We were back in the office, and you were so pissed off about it. Let's be honest.
Dan.
I'm lying. Let's be honest.
Dan, hold on here. I called you last night to complain about that. And this is what you're going to do to me?
I threw you under the bus.
Yeah, you did.
My bad.
It's like, hey, listen, Sam Laporte is having a great year, but he went to Highland.
Yeah, Highland kid, and an awesome year. Scored again last night.
Yes, sir.
I thought the broadcast talked a lot about him, too.
They did.
Pointed out the kind of year that he's having, and the draft has been solid.
Yes.
And he may be one of the steals of the draft.
Lions are doing it, man. They're a fun team to watch, no doubt. All right, it's the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN. Dan McLaughlin, our guy Andrew Marsh. I'm Anthony Stalter. So if we look at the Blues right now, are they good enough to make the playoffs? Oh, Dan. That look.
What?
All right, we'll get into it next.
Ate too much candy. It hurt my stomach, and I had to give a frowning look.
I think two things are true. That's next on 101 ESPN. 3:05, your time check is brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. So are the Blues good enough to make the playoffs? Dan McLaughlin, Andrew Marsh, I'm Anthony Stalter. Do we even know what this team is yet?
No.
I'm not going to back off of my playoff prediction for the Blues because we're only, 6 games in to this season. We don't know who this team is.
I think you can say they're inconsistent.
I think we can say that as well. So do consistent teams know who they are?
Yes.
Yeah.
Even if you're consistently bad, you kind of have an idea. This is a rebuild year. We're going to be consistently bad. We're hoping the young guys get some time. Veterans are on their last leg. They just want to stay in the league. We know who they are. If you're a great team, you know who you are. You're tweaking, but you know who you are. This Blues team is incredibly inconsistent thus far. We don't know who they are. We can't say this is what they're going to be for the rest of the year.
If you were going to describe the Blues, because we always hear the word identity, you got to have this identity in hockey. Our identity is X in hockey. What's the Blues' identity right now?
I think that's a great question, Dan, and I think the answer is they want to be something, but they're not that something yet.
Yeah.
They want to be a strong forechecking team, a team that when they get the puck, they get it in deep, they hem teams into their own zone, and they create chances for themselves when they have players positioned in front of the net, but it all comes to that strong forecheck, right? I don't think that's who they are right now, but that is what Craig Berube is preaching. And when you see guys like Jacob Vrana get healthy scratch for 2 games, it goes to show you that Craig Berube and his coaching staff are trying to implement that. For the time being, though, it'd be nice if they had a better power play. Because
if you one goal on
that's it.
Yeah, in the power play.
So you can try to build up to being that strong forechecking team, 200-foot game and all that, all the cliches. If you're not there yet, one way you can win is when you get on the damn power play, and they just haven't done that yet.
How about Kyrou scoring? He's had his chances. He's had 3 or 4 breakaways that he has not scored. He's got 1 goal this year. Robert Thomas, 1 goal. And if this team is going to be a playoff team, those guys
kind of tells the story, doesn't it?
Have to be way better than that in terms of their production and goal scoring. I actually think as much as some people would disagree with me, and I'm sure they would after watching the first period on Friday night, I actually think their defense has been okay. We've heard so much about the new system and the way I think it's okay. But when I look at this team, Jordan Bennington can't be left out on an island like he was Friday night. You've got to be able to convert on the power play. They haven't with 1 goal this year. And, you're paying these guys first year of their 8-year contracts. With the payment comes expectations. With expectations comes performance. And you're not getting that right now out of Kyrou and Thomas.
Right.
1 goal apiece.
Yeah.
It's got to be better.
Marsh, how would you answer that? I think the Blues, can you answer right now? Are the Blues good enough to make the playoffs?
So, answering that right now after watching this team, no.
Yeah.
No, that's the simple answer. We talk about an identity. I feel like you have to have an identity as an offense and an identity as a defense. I think they know their identity defensively. And like Dan said, they've been pretty good from a defensive standpoint. Offensively, they need to find that. It's hard to find that, though, when the puck is in your zone for the majority of the game.
True.
And by the time that you get out of the zone, you have new players jumping on the ice, so you can't sustain a forecheck as much as they would want to. I'm looking at some of their wins, though. I mean, okay, let's look at the Flames. The Flames have 2 wins on the year in 9 games. Not great. The Penguins are also last in their division. That's not great. Like, that's not
great.
Not great. Yeah, exactly, Mo. But the games that you have won, yes, they've looked good, but they haven't beat anybody really that great. The Kraken, in 10 games, they have 3 wins.
Yeah.
And they're -10 in goal differential.
Sometimes you have to have a guy. You got to have just a stud. And I'm not sure that they have that on this team. I think they've got some complementary parts.
Yeah.
And this is a bad example, but I watched the other night New Jersey and Washington play. Jack Hughes
is unbelievable.
Is unbelievable. I just looked it up. He's got 18 points in 7 games, I think it is. He is so much fun to watch, and that's another reason, in a general sense, take out the wins and losses to bring you down to the rink to go watch. Like New Jersey's coming up, I think, on the homestand for the Blues. I'm going to go buy tickets because I want to watch Jack Hughes play.
I will be at that game.
He is
on Friday.
Awesome.
You guys going to sit together?
Sure, we will. Marcia, you want to go together?
Dan, I'm going to be there with 14 other buddies.
I could be. So you're saying I'm not
party?
I'm not 15, huh?
Dan, you're invited to the suite.
So I could be 15, but apparently
15.
I'm not. Am I?
Oh, there you go. Hey, Dan, you know what? You invited me to Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I'm going to invite you to this.
There we
Thanks,
go.
buddy.
There we go.
See, it paid off, huh?
How about my 2 kids, my boys that want to go? I got 4, but 2 may want to go.
Hey, bring them.
They can hang with you.
The more the merrier.
They can hang with you.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to put Marsh on the spot.
Oh,
go ahead.
okay.
You
I
got
was just
something?
going to say that Jack Hughes, though, you mentioned how fun he is to watch. He is a really good player, but he started off slow. His NHL career started off a little bit slow. So that does give me some hope that some of these players that we're relying on, Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, that they can, at least for this season, they can get to where Jack Hughes is. Now, Jack Hughes is a number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Right? We're comparing two different
Apples to oranges.
Exactly. But you would like a little bit more production from both of those guys. What were you going to say, though?
It's the 3rd week of the season.
I've been saying that. I think you don't evaluate till you're about a fourth of the way through.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're 25 games in, and you have a pretty good idea what you're going to be like.
That was my Tony impression. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
It's the 1st week of the season.
It's the first week. It's the first week of the season. Come on.
You're putting me on the spot?
I certainly am. 101 ESPN is your chance to score a
Oh.
pair of tickets to
Nice
see Blink
transition again.
182.
Hell of a transition.
At Enterprise Center on August 10th. Text in now.
That's a pro, Marshy.
314-399-9646 for your chance to win free tickets to see Blink 182. But you do have to answer this trivia question that Andrew Marsh is about to throw out to you.
John Miller.
Maybe.
You know why I
Joe
did it this
Morgan.
way? So you
I wouldn't screw it up.
So you wouldn't screw it up, Dan.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, Marsh.
All right, what chain restaurant did Blink 182 recently play a gig at? It was on social media. What chain restaurant did Blink 182 play a quote-unquote
I love
gig
it.
at
All
recently?
right. So if you know that question,
Wow.
and if you know the answer to that
My
question,
goodness.
and you're the 101st texter to our Air Comfort Service text line at 314-399-9646, you'll have your chance to go see Blink on August 10th. You can also find a bonus chance to register to win tickets to Blink 182 at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 ESPN mobile app.
Place has good pancakes, right? Breakfast food.
Okay. The trade.
I'm just trying to play along.
The trade deadline.
I didn't say it.
The trade
I did
deadline in
not
the
say it.
NFL
Great
is come and
tease.
gone. We'll give you the latest next
John Miller and Joe Morgan.
on 101 ESPN. NFL trade deadline has come and gone, and there were, I would say, if you look at the whole trade deadline, there were some significant deals that were made. It started off with Leonard Floyd being traded from the Giants to the Seahawks, and then from there, you could look at the deals that were done today. The Commanders traded Chase Young to the 49ers. So the 49ers, and by the way, it was only a third-round pick.
Can I ask you just a simple question?
Sure.
And you're going to say, just like the Tyreek Hill, I knew the answer, but I am curious your thoughts on why don't we see more movement at the NFL trade deadline? Is it more of the cap issues, how you're valued with trade picks, and it's in the eye of the beholder kind of thing of what I want to give up trade-wise with picks, or is it more of the cap issue?
I think you nailed it. It's a combination of the two, and then the other thing is, depending on what position they play, a lot of times the system makes a huge. So obviously not every team. Now, you could go back a long time. It's the NFL, offensively and defensively, it's all variations of the same system. But if you're a quarterback that's being dealt, it is incredibly difficult to make that quick transition to a new system. If you've been around a while, like if let's just say Kirk Cousins got dealt, Kirk Cousins has been around long enough to know what each offense can do and what they're trying to accomplish. The terminology, though, coming from Minnesota and going to wherever, that's the difficult part.
So how hard is it going to be to walk into Minnesota after that deal and play effectively? Playing and playing effectively are two different things.
Yeah, good point. So Joshua Dobbs apparently is a rocket scientist.
Okay.
Like literally a rocket scientist. That's what he studied at Tennessee.
Seriously.
So the kid is brilliant.
Okay.
Still, to go from a system in Arizona now to Minnesota, it's gonna take him a little time. Now they'll scale back the playbook. He's not going to play this week. They're not going to start him. The kid out of BYU, Hall, is going to start. From
Jaron Hall.
Yeah, he's already been confirmed the starter, which is good. I mean, you can't come over and learn a playbook while also getting first team reps and feel good enough to play on Sunday. You give the kid all the reps. Give him all the first team reps. Give him the second team reps too. Get him as comfortable as possible. Figure out the 10 to 15 plays he's comfortable running in the offense and just go.
Yeah.
I think best case scenario is you don't even play Joshua Dobbs. That this Jaron Hall fella ends up working out and he looks good in this upcoming week against your Falcons.
Probably will.
Thank you.
Given their track record, the kid will probably play like a modern-day Will Levis.
All right, I'm excited. But, yeah, hopefully he doesn't even have to play. Jaron Hall can just take over and have a Case Keenum-like season for the Minnesota Vikings.
And Atlanta's got a little bit of a controversy QB-wise. Kind of.
It shouldn't be.
Kind of.
When you got a quarterback that's turned the ball over 12 times this year.
So you're going to go with Taylor Heineke.
Damn right I'm going to go with calls the law.
Yeah, you got to go with him. He had, 4 second-half scoring drives in 6 attempts.
Yeah. Where Ritter.
That'll work.
Look, Ritter won him some games this year. There's no question, but you cannot turn the ball over 12 times.
And 7 in the last 3 games.
7 in the last 3 games.
Yeah.
You're losing games because your quarterback's not hanging onto the ball.
We were talking in the office, they could have won 2 easily without the turnovers.
You should have beat Washington. And even though Will Levis threw four touchdown passes, Ritter fumbled the ball in Tennessee territory in the first half that led to a touchdown. So let's just say you hang on to the damn ball there. Let's say you even score on that drive. You beat them too.
Do you feel that inside when that happens on Sunday?
It's gut-wrenching.
It is for you.
Fortunately, I'm used to it.
28-3.
28-3.
Takes you back to that great feeling you had.
So I'll tell you this, Dan. After the 28-3, I realized that there are teams in the NFL that are just used to make other franchises and fan bases happy. That's it. Atlanta's one of those teams.
Atlanta's one of those teams.
Detroit has been one of those teams. This storybook season will end in travesty. Lions fans already know that. They do. Well, they know deep down the Lions are only in existence for the 49ers fans
and to play on Thanksgiving.
Correct.
I wanted to bring this up when we were talking about the Lions, but there's a few moments in that game where I know the Raiders are terrible, but if that was a better team that they're playing against, I'm not so sure the Lions win that game. They turned the ball over a few times there, even, a pick six as well.
That was ugly.
So I'm wondering, yes, the Lions offense does look really good, but when they end up playing a better team later in the year in the playoffs, how will that work out? Because you're still turning the ball over.
You got to get healthy. Losing Frank Ragnow, their center, is a huge deal. Dan, you've got buddies that dabble in the fine arts of
great friends,
sports betting.
Sure. I myself, I stay away from that stuff,
yes.
but I am always there to offer advice or to be a shoulder to cry on.
Look at the injury reports going into Sundays. If a team is without their center,
I happen to do that.
So write this one
just to help people.
Write this down, Dan.
Yeah,
if
I'm writing it down.
The center is out for a team.
The center is out.
That's a huge deal.
It's a huge deal.
Center helps the quarterback set the protections. He is basically a quarterback's assistant. He is the keystone of the offensive line. If that guy is out, it's a big deal for an offense. I'm not saying that you automatically lose, but maybe you don't score as much as you expected.
Happened last night too with not Vegas, but come on, help me out with Detroit.
Frank Ragnow,
like you were talking about. But there was also happened 2 weeks ago. I can't remember who it was, but they had to move the left guard to center, and they got pummeled. I can't remember what team it was. It doesn't matter. But to your point, when you have the fluctuation up front, because as a casual fan, what do you focus on? Quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end.
Basically, whoever's on your fantasy team.
Not left guard.
No,
not left guard.
Typically not.
That's why I want to see I was thinking about this the other day. I want to see a huge NIL deal
for a guard,
for a starting guard,
tackle.
Yeah, like all you can eat buffet.
Yeah,
we got Frank Jones. 330, 6'1", 330, and he comes in to eat. Come on down. We got the best barbecue in town.
There you go.
Frank Jones is like chawing on a rib.
After I'm done with practice, I'm
done with practice.
Frank's Rib Shack.
Right.
Yeah.
When's the first NIL deal for an offensive tackle?
I'm sure there actually is some.
It's got to be some. They're just not very public with it or whatever. Makes sense.
Yeah, it certainly does. All right, so we'll run through some of these trades. Again, Commanders sent Chase Young to the 49ers in exchange for a third-round pick. The Vikings acquired Joshua Dobbs, the quarterback from the Cardinals, to replace Kirk Cousins. It'll be interesting now to see if Kyler Murray is the one that starts. He practiced last week.
Didn't they say he was going to sit out one more week?
Yes.
But now that changes everything.
We'll certainly see. Yep. The Lions acquired wide receiver Donovan Peoples-Jones from the Browns, and the Bills acquired Rasul Douglas, the cornerback from the Packers. Beforehand, the Bears. The other deal that was made, that the Bears traded for Montez Sweat. So how about this? The Bears acquired Montez Sweat for a second-round pick, and the 49ers only gave up a third for Chase Young, which I find to be kind of interesting. Other than that, it's kind of some smaller deals. Saquon Barkley, not traded. Derrick Henry, not traded. That was kind of the two big names that maybe you thought could get dealt.
I was just thinking about this. I don't know, and this is completely off topic. It does involve the NFL. I'd be curious, and I haven't seen them, the television ratings in this town, which is a great baseball town, one of the best, if not the best, going up against Monday Night Football last night. So you had nothing else. You didn't have the Blues. You did have the Equinox going on with all the 4 or 5 major sports, because MLS was even playing last night, playoffs. So you had all 5 of the major professional teams going, or sports, I should say, going. What the TV ratings were with the NFL compared to the World Series.
That would be interesting, especially in a matchup that was not attractive.
That's my point.
Yeah.
I don't know. I went back and forth, what I did.
I think it probably did well, despite...
Do you think the World Series did?
No, the NFL.
I do too. Yeah, I agree with you. And I know the ratings in town for the World Series, even when it's Arizona and Texas, are pretty good.
Yeah.
Compared to other markets in the United States. But I wonder what people watched. My guess would be Monday Night Football, more so than the World Series.
I had the World Series on for the majority of the night.
Did you?
Yeah, I
was a close game.
I had the football game on here and there as the game went on, but I really like that Brandon Fod pitcher.
Yeah.
He's pretty good.
He's a great
story.
He gave up 3 runs yesterday, but I mean, he's going to be a nice pitcher for Arizona moving forward. And I believe he's a 5th-round pick.
Without his contributions, especially in the Phillies series where he owned them twice.
Yes.
Diamondbacks are probably not in the World Series right now.
No, they're not. They needed him.
Yeah, no doubt. So Eric from YouTube asked, did the steroid era change the way baseball is played? Let's get into that. It's an interesting question. Next on 101 ESPN. Hey, when it comes to Monday Night Football, hopefully you got an opportunity to play last night if you were betting on FanDuel, and hopefully you took the Lions or you took one of the prop plays that they have. And that's the best thing about FanDuel, man. They've got all the player props. They got all of the futures. They've got the same game parlays that are available. But when it comes to FanDuel, they do it right, and they've got a great offer going on right now for new customers. So new customers to FanDuel get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's right. All you have to do is place a $5 money line play, and you're going to get, if you're a new customer, $150 in bonus bets to play with FanDuel. That way you look at the NFL slate on Sunday or maybe the Thursday night matchup, pick out your favorite play, maybe build your own same game parlay, and you're good to go. That's $150 if your team wins. You could choose any team, money line play, make it $5, and you're good to go. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. So visit FanDuel.com/fast. Again, FanDuel.com/fast. And check out FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL.
21 and over, present in Illinois. First online real money wager. Only $5 pregame money line wager required. First online real money wager. Only $10 first deposit required. Bonus issues, non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
I'm Andrew Marsh. It's time for a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Texas Rangers defeated the Arizona Diamondbacks last night, Game 3 of the World Series. Final score 3-1. They'll be back in action tonight for Game 4. You can catch that one right here on 101 ESPN. Pregame starts at 6 o'clock. Also last night, Monday Night Football between the Lions and the Raiders. Detroit won 26-14. The NFL trade deadline was today. We have talked about that. If you missed that, make sure you go to 101ESPN.com or use the free 101 mobile app. You can find our full show there. It's all brought to you by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. And the Blues will take on the Avalanche tomorrow night, 7:30 pregame, 8:30 puck drop. We'll talk with Joe Vitale at 4:45, so make sure you tune in to that. I'm Andrew Marsh, and the Sports Center update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
So before we get into Eric, who left us, I think it's kind of a statement on YouTube about the steroid era, and I do want to get into that conversation because Eric brings up some good points. Dan, you had talked about, at some point you wanted to see a big NIL deal given to an offensive lineman, and we were kind of joking about the, kind of like the Frank's Rib House or something being a sponsor. Now you dug something up.
So one of our astute listeners texted in that this is from Ames, Iowa. These are guys from Iowa State. The Iowa Pork Producers Association announced that the organization is partner on a name, image, and likeness deal with Iowa State Cyclones Miles Purchase, Tyler Moore, Tommy Hammond, and Caleb Bacon. Those names strung together are last names Purchase, Moore, Hammond, Bacon. And they got an NIL deal out of it.
That's great.
So at least we know now offensive linemen are not being forgotten.
Yeah,
I love that. It's pretty good.
It is pretty good. Matt Purdy was, or Brock Purdy. Matt, why do I call him Brock? Brock Purdy was an Iowa State Cyclone.
Oh, yeah. Not bad either.
No, heck no.
Although he's now being asked to do things that he wasn't at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
And he doesn't look the same, does he?
You got to run. The 49ers have to play with the lead.
And no question about it.
They have to play with the lead. That play action, all that stuff goes away if you're chasing. The 49ers, despite their offense, I'll say this about the Dolphins too, watch. The Dolphins and the 49ers are not teams that you think like, oh, they'll just come back because they got these great offenses. They have to play with leads.
Yep.
They're not good teams when trailing.
Run the ball, McCaffrey, get it in his hands.
And then play action off that. It opens everything up. All right, Marsh, to you, because you got, you're monitoring our Air Alliance team YouTube channel, and Eric, who chimes in, brought up the steroid era when we're talking about baseball.
Yeah, so Eric on YouTube, he says the steroid era really put pressure on the rest of the league and the history of it moving forward from that point. Bigger, stronger guys play a more deciding role than small ball type players.
Yes, I agree with that. The other aspect, and I was going to bring it up a couple of times, Dan, when we were talking about this, and it didn't fit into the discussion, but it does now. And you know this. Power guys get paid.
Oh, yeah.
They get paid.
Yeah.
So we had Matt Holliday on. That's what I was thinking, Matt. When I call him Matt Purdy, I was thinking of Matt Holliday because I want to bring this up. We had Matt Holliday on, and Matt was honest with us. We talked about, hey, in the minor leagues, dropping down bunts, did you do that more? And then why in the big leagues do you not focus on it more? He goes, yeah, I hit home runs. I get that. You typically
get $120 million. Well, even take it.
It's so simple.
Take it a step further. If you're a young player, meaning if you're 16, 17, 18 years old, and you're trying to get a look, you're trying to have some scout find you. Okay, a kid drops down a bunt. The only way that's going to impress somebody, not all the time, but probably 95% of the time, is if he gets down the line in an amazingly fast pace where that catches the attention of a scout. Now, you could be deep in the hole, make a great defensive play. It's short, and you show off your arm, and you're Trevor Rosenthal. That's what happened for him.
Sure.
They were actually looking at a different guy that was on the mound, and they found him.
Same thing with Joe Nathan, too. Remember Joe Nathan?
Yes, that's a great
shortstop.
Exactly. Great example. But if you're not throwing, I don't know, let's say 95, 96, No one cares if somebody said, wow, did you see that guy with a great sinker and some movement? He's topping out at 92. Oh, he's topping out. Well, yeah, he's got no shot.
It's too bad, too.
And the thing was, we talked about the steroid era. Steroid era for my money in baseball extended so many careers in terms of if you were 32 or 33, guys were getting 4 and 5 year deals.
Yeah.
Because they weren't naturally fading. And so these guys are still hitting 35, 40 home runs and that kind of thing. I also think that it's been the evolution of just people. The players have gotten bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah.
Same thing in the NFL, same thing in the NBA, same thing in any sport you want to watch. Look at golf and how far these guys are hitting the ball. Now, a great point would be equipment has changed. It's better.
Sure.
But Tiger Woods and some of these guys were getting in the gym, too, and changing their bodies.
I think it's a great point. Do you remember when Tiger first came back? He came off an off season in golf, and all of a sudden he looked like he could play cornerback for the Dallas Cowboys. And
he's
you're like,
jacked.
And now every golfer's, I gotta get in the gym.
Absolutely.
Look at Brooks Koepka. He's huge.
Yeah.
Now, part of that in golf might not be the best example. It's a good one, but it may not be the best, is that the equipment is so good that they're actually out hitting the courses that they play on. But when you look at baseball, it's just bigger, faster, stronger. And guys, you want to get paid? Like, would you ever go to a minor league game and go, man, that guy's got to get signed? Do you see him put down that bunt?
No.
No.
It's a shame, too, because I wonder if some team eventually, while everybody's zigging, some team zags and says, you know what? Let's fill our entire roster with guys that are extremely competitive and they also have high baseball IQs. Our entire pitching staff is going to be guys that know how to pitch. Regardless of whether they throw 97 or 92, they're competitive and they know how to pitch. And you know, Dan, more than anybody, there's a huge difference. There's guys that throw and there's guys that pitch. And one team says, this is going to be our starting rotation.
The other thing, too, is that when guys are signed and you have certain bonus babies, there is a responsibility to an extent to get them to the major leagues and justify the money that you're paying these kids.
Absolutely.
And so these kids go to the showcases. They may not, to your point, know how to pitch properly, but they can throw. I mean, they can throw 97, 98 and wow you. But do they know how to pitch? And the answer, more times than not, is no. I remember talking to Mike Schilt at length about it. I said, what do you think is hurting the game right now in terms of why guys don't understand hit behind a runner, be able to bunt, because they're never asked to bunt growing up. Now it's launch angle at the youngest of ages and all that stuff. He said, what's hurting the game, he said, if you want to say it's hurting the game, is just the showcases. Like, guys don't, he said, because he taught at that level, taught high school, coached high school. He's like, guys don't know how to play the game. Like, they don't know where to throw to the cutoff man. Mm-hmm. The cutoff man doesn't know where to establish himself. He said, so why should we expect them to all of a sudden know it when they get to the minor leagues?
Yeah.
They don't. And that's a problem in the game. But we're talking about power. I mean, power is what the game is built on now.
Sure.
I'd rather have a bunch of guys that work counts, get on base, and then maybe have one or two big boppers in your lineup, right? Because you
still need it.
You still need it, and you can get away with those guys maybe striking out here and there. But if you have a ton of those players in your lineup, it's not going to work for me. That's just my personal opinion. Obviously, some people like all the home runs.
Yeah.
But what happens when they're not hitting home runs and there's just strikeouts?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
You got to. I think to your point that you made 20 seconds ago, you have to have both. You have to have it's a complete offense, because you don't want to be the team that's like, all our guys are high baseball IQ.
Yeah.
Can any of them drive the ball out of the yard? Because that team can.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be so far in one direction that you miss out on that balance that you're trying to create by not having guys that they can only hit home runs.
Give me dudes. I want some dudes, man.
Do you think right now there's in baseball right now there's enough players that know? You talk about baseball IQ, and when I think of that, I think of defense, right? You mentioned throwing to the cutoff man. Do you think there's enough players in baseball that know how to work counts and have a good sense of the strike zone?
I think there are guys that like for a good example would be somebody just threw 5 balls in a row, and you come up, the guy in front of you just took 4, and he throws a ball to you, and the next pitch they're swinging. Mm-hmm. Now, there are some, the school of thought is you're going to get a cookie because he's going to groove one in there. The other school of thought is take a strike.
Right.
Take 2 maybe. He can't find the plate. But rarely will you see that. It just doesn't happen. Now, a lot of times, I remember talking to Tony La Russa about this. He said, I remember when the Cardinals would be down, it would drive me crazy. And I'd say, guys are swinging at the first pitch in the 9th inning. And he said, it's gotten so specialized, and this is to the greater point, but he would mention with a closer, they're so good, and the split finger's been introduced, and guys are throwing 98, that the only pitch you may get in the at-bat is the first pitch you go for. And so the mindset had changed conceptually in baseball as to why you would swing down by a run, down by 2 in the 9th inning, where it used to be take a strike, maybe take 2, and if you got a hit behind the count, so be it. But that's not going to be done anymore. It's just the way the game's played.
It's Fastlane on 101 ESPN. Why don't we do an Are You Sold next on 101
I'm sold
ESPN.
on that.
Yeah, you are.
Thank you.
Look at you. If you're a guy and you feel run down, you feel like when you head into the gym, it's more cumbersome than it ever has been before. Maybe you don't even get to the gym because you're not motivated. Go see Jamie and my friends at Mentality, because when it comes to Mentality, they're going to try to get your life back in order. You got to put in the work, of course, but they've got programs that are specialized to what you need. And if you're a little bit older, maybe you're in your late 30s or your early 40s like I am, or maybe you're in your 50s and you want to feel not only younger, but you want to, go throughout your day and not reach for all kinds of coffee and energy drinks and just, all right, I got to get through this, and I'm not focused, I'm not determined, not motivated. You might be low on testosterone. It happens over time. We as guys, we start to lose that testosterone as we age. That's where Mentality comes in. They can help you with a specialized program that fits for you, and after a while, you start to feel great. And you start to work out. You start to have that motivation. You're working out. You're eating better. Your entire life starts to kind of come back into focus here, and you do feel like you're younger again, and you feel like you can accomplish more throughout the course of the day. That's what Mentality is there for. So 2 locations, one out in South County, one in Chesterfield, and they're both fantastic. In fact, same people that work on both. They're excellent. They'll help you get back on track. Go see them personally. Tell them Jamie and I sent you, or visit lowtstl.com. with Dan McLaughlin and Andrew Marsh. I'm Anthony Stalter. Dan doing this.
That's a nice bass he got going on.
Yeah, he's got
there.
the bass going on. Let's play Are You
Just
Sold?
rhythm, guys. Just rhythm. Sorry.
Rhythm and blues.
You got it.
You crack me up.
You crack me up. Now, what do we got? Are you sold?
Are you sold?
All right, I'm sold on this segment. Let's do it.
Let's
There we
do
go.
it. All right, guys. Are you sold on James Harden being traded to the Los Angeles Clippers?
And what, making a difference?
Yes.
And not getting traded again soon? I'm not sold on any of those things.
I'm so sold on it.
He gets bounced.
Really?
Yeah.
Look, when a player gets moved around as much, and I'm not saying it was all James Harden in Philadelphia this time, but you get moved around. There's a reason for it.
Happy James is a happy family, and so
And when is
this
James
guy's
happy?
averaged a double-double for 4 years. He had 20 and 10. He's a 10-time All-Star, I believe.
You know what you're getting out of him. You're getting a great shot and
I
no
don't
defense.
care. He makes them the favorite to win in the Western Conference now.
Are they
I
going
think
to
it's
play
a
their
great
guys?
move. Yeah, he's a great fit for that team, and I would put them as the favorites now to win the Western Conference. And I'm being
Okay.
dead serious.
You like them over the world champion Denver Nuggets?
I do.
Stop it. You
James Harden is a stud.
You like them over the previous 3 years ago world champion Golden State Warriors.
I do. Look at the cast surrounding him. Put James Harden on that team. And he came in, by the way, to camp this year in shape. Like, hired a personal trainer, nutritionist. He was like, I'm in. I'm going to come in shape. He came in shape.
That right there tells us everything we need to know about James.
I understand where you're going with this.
Do you think Albert would ever show up and just not be in shape? Now I'm going to be in shape.
Well, no. No, I won't.
You ever think Matt Holliday rolls into town and
No.
say, now I'm going to get into shape?
He was always in shape.
That's why you always had spring training, fellas. I don't know why you guys think that way. Spring training was to get your body in shape. Those guys, they had to get
the
off-season
90s.
jobs. No, you had off-season jobs a couple of years ago. Now, the money has changed a little bit in the last 2 years, but, guys were trying to feed their families in the off-season, so they had off-season jobs.
Yeah.
And spring training was meant to get in shape.
Right. In the 70s, I think that's what you've gone back to, Dan. Yeah, no, the Clippers will not win a damn thing with James Harden.
Probably not.
No. I like you going out to the island on that, though, Dan. You rode out to the island.
I did.
I liked it.
We're going to talk about this. We're going to mark it down Halloween of 2023. And we'll come back to it on April 1st, and the Clippers will have won the Western Conference.
Wow.
Yeah. Just mark my words right now.
I will extend an apology if that happens.
I just want you jumping on my bandwagon if it happens.
All right.
Are you sold on Andre Palante's new death ball?
What's a death ball now? A curveball?
That's essentially an off-speed pitch that Andre Palante is working on right now.
I am sold that he is trying to come up with a new pitch to stay in the big leagues. And I mean no disrespect, but this is a pitcher that had an outstanding season 2 years ago. Did not go well last year.
Better develop something else.
Better develop something else. And I credit him for working on it in the offseason.
Yeah.
You can't just sit back and say, well, last year was an aberration. No, go work.
I find it interesting that he is getting after it right now. Not always. Some pitchers wait until after the first of the year, but here's a guy that was used a lot and takes 2 weeks off, 2-3 weeks off, and is saying, I got to do something because this year didn't work.
Yeah.
And he's the kind of guy, he's not big contract. He's not penciled in to be a number 1 through 5. And he's a bullpen guy. So with bullpen guys, those jobs are up for grabs. And it's probably to his credit and to the betterment of his career to get something going that is offsetting some of the pitches that he has. Because guys were sitting on what he had. He needed something, a third pitch to offset it. And so this might be the way to do it.
Cool.
By the way, this is from Blake Newberry on Twitter. The velo on the final death ball in the video that is posted with this quote was 83.3 miles per hour. For reference, Palante's curveball averaged 76.9 miles per hour in 2023. So you're seeing a little bit more velo on that off-speed pitch.
Okay.
So there you go. Are you
Go get 'em.
sold on Mizzou having a chance to beat Georgia on Saturday?
I think, Anthony, what are they, 16.5 underdogs going into that?
Depending on the book.
Yeah.
15.5 at others.
Yeah.
I was at the MAC today. Dan, you and I have...
We love the MAC. It's our MAC.
It's our MAC. And I heard a spirited conversation between a couple of gentlemen in the locker room there about Mizzou.
Just a couple of guys in towels just yakking it up.
Just yakking it up. And they were confident that Mizzou was going to give a good showing, and one of them even said, I think we're going to win, and we're going to be a top 5 team afterwards.
Did you see, if you look at Georgia in just about every category, yards per game, yards after catch, rushing yards allowed, defense, I mean, they're ahead of Mizzou. It's not by the margins, though, that you would think. I was looking at the numbers last night. They're not gaping numbers between the two. I also look at the fact that you had a bye week if you're Mizzou.
Yeah.
And that is a factor going into this game.
Certainly.
You get to heal up a little bit. You get to implement some things that maybe you wouldn't have time to do in a normal work week, if you will. So that's part of why I think they can be competitive. I don't think they win. What would concern me as a Mizzou fan is that Georgia was out with the best player. Their best player was out, and they looked and they looked like Georgia last week. They looked really good.
Yeah, they've in games that have really kind of games that were supposed to be tests, Kentucky and Florida, Georgia ramped it up.
Exactly. Great team. I think you'll get caught if you try to live that way.
Yeah.
Eventually it'll catch up with you, and maybe it catches up this weekend, but their talent is so good, then I think you use the right word. They're able to ramp it up when they need to.
Yeah.
And obviously keep winning games. I mean, it's a juggernaut right now, man. It's a dynasty.
I think Mizzou is going to be very competitive. I do. I think we're to the point where we look at Mizzou and say, they're going to challenge teams. The way they play, the way they can move the ball through the air, the way that they have at least had a knack of running the ball. The problem is, if you go back to the LSU game, there's 2 big problems that relates to the Georgia game. Mizzou did not have the speed defensively to match up with LSU.
Or Hurts in particular.
Certainly. So you look at Mizzou from a defensive standpoint, their speed could be an issue again this week. The other problem is LSU defensively can be had on the ground. Georgia cannot. Georgia, you're facing a better overall defense this weekend than the one that you played against LSU.
I think one of the things I can't wait to watch is what Luther Burden does on the main stage against the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah.
Let him loose, which they've tried, obviously, and he's put up big numbers, but let's see what he does against Georgia. That, to me, is going to be fun to watch.
I think it's going to be a game.
Where would you put him right now? If he was leaving right now,
yeah,
and I know you love football and you're in the weeds on this stuff, where's Luther Burden? If he was in the draft right now, first-round pick?
Yeah, I think he'd be a first-round pick. I don't think he cracks the top 10, but I could see him get going somewhere in the teens. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be the top wide receiver off the board, and there's just going to be no question there, and barring injury, of course. But I think if Burden were to leave this year, I think he'd be a teen pick, or at the very least in the 20s somewhere.
If Caleb Williams elects to stay at USC this year and not enter into the draft, do you think Marvin Harrison Jr. could be a top pick?
The top overall pick?
Yeah. Would you expect a team to do that?
No, because I think you have enough quarterback needy teams that would look at Drake May or Michael Penix or I love the kid out of Duke, Riley Leonard, who's been banged up, but I think he's got an NFL arm.
He's had a hurt ankle the last 3 weeks, cost them some games.
And he's played.
Really
he's tried to gut it out, but I think he's an NFL player.
Oh, yeah.
I think enough teams will look at the quarterbacks that are available and go with that.
Even if it's the Bears?
What the Bears could do is take Marvin Harrison Jr. first, and then
have you seen
take
him
the quarterback
play much?
With the third pick, or whoever it winds up being.
Have you guys seen him play much?
Marvin Harrison Jr.
He's
a stud.
He's fast too.
Yeah.
He's much fun to watch.
Absolute stud.
He is going to go down. I was looking at the numbers the other day. Is probably the best wide receiver statistically in the history of Ohio State.
How about that?
I mean, it's incredible.
They've had some absolute dudes. All right, it's a Fast Line on 101 ESPN with the Gauntlet next.
warriors, 4 categories, 1 challenger. Can you master the gauntlet?
Brought to you by Master, your hometown source for business communications for more than 30 years. Visit masstour.com.
It's a Fastlane on 101 ESPN. Time for the Gauntlet. 4:02. Your time check is brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. And back for a second straight day after beating Jamie yesterday is our guy, Bill. How are you, Bill?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for coming back after knocking off Jamie yesterday. So you got 2 choices today. You've got Andrew Marsh or me. Who would you like to take on?
I'm going to go with Marsh.
Okay, Marsh is up. So, Dan, would you like to do the honors?
Sure.
Now, we tightened up the wheel, so you're going to have to give it a really good spin, but hold on. Don't do it yet.
Also, if it lands on Fastlane picks, I will take hockey today.
Okay, all right, so now we know. So, Bill, go ahead, tell Marsh and Dan to spin the wheel.
Spin that wheel.
All right, Dan, give it a good go there. All right, it is spinning. Now, it has been coming up random a lot lately. Let's see what happens now. Whoa, we got to...
It's kind of unstable, isn't it?
This wheel absolutely loves random.
Yeah, it does.
And it spun random again. Now, we don't... Did Marsh leave the launch codes with us?
I don't know. Let me go see.
They might be over there in a black folder, Dan, if you could see that. Bill, how do you feel about random again? You did well yesterday with random.
Yeah, I wasn't happy about getting it yesterday, but I did all right.
Thank you, Dan. All right, so let's see if Grant updated the randoms. Poor Grant, he's had to do randoms a bunch lately. I'll hand these to Dan.
Yes, sir.
Going on the fly here. There you go. All right, just a reminder. 4 questions, all random, to Bill today, and then 4 questions to Marsh. Each question is worth 2 points unless Bill or Marsh need the options. Then those questions are worth 1. You ready, Bill?
Ready.
All right, here we go. Question number 1. What arena do the Utah Jazz play their home games at? And we need the name. What arena?
I'll need the options on that.
Sure. Delta Center, Hertz Arena, or Amway Center? Delta Center, Hertz Arena, Amway Center.
I'm going to say Amway Center.
Okay, number 2. What color do players have to wear at the Wimbledon tennis tournament?
White.
Question 3, please.
Final answer on that, Bill?
Oh, yeah, final.
Yeah, come on. You don't have confidence in Bill? He answered that with straight confidence, a direct answer, and that was it.
Dan, we have rules.
My bad.
Rules here.
You're right, my bad.
All right, what is a doctor called that specializes in lung health? What is the doctor called that specializes in lung health?
I'll need the options again.
Oh, boy. Here we go. Pulmonologist, endocrinologist, or what's that last one, Dan?
Rheumatologist.
Rheumatologist, endocrinologist, or pulmonologist?
I'll say endocrinologist.
Final answer?
Final answer.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Question 4. What is the capital of Finland?
I'll take a wild guess, say Helsinki.
Okay.
All right on that.
Final answer?
Final answer.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we'll bring back Andrew Marsh. Bill, how you feeling?
Kind of like the Blues been playing lately. Not well.
Okay, all right. Well, Marsh coming back in. After spending some time in the cone of silence today, Marsh, can you believe it?
What?
The wheel spun random.
Oh, of course it did.
The same random that it often spins at. So are you ready to compete against Bill today?
I am.
Let's go. Question 1. What arena do the Utah Jazz play their home games at?
Wow. I have no clue. Let's use the options.
Delta Center, Hertz Arena, Amway Center.
Oh, Amway is the Orlando Magic. So I'm going to cross that one off. What were the other two?
Delta Center or Hertz Arena?
Do we go planes or cars? I'm trying to think if there's any other arenas that are...
Answer the question, please.
Dan? Let's go with Hertz. Final answer.
Okay. What color do players have to wear, question 2, at the Wimbledon tennis tournament? What color do players have to wear at the Wimbledon tennis tournament?
White. Final answer.
Question 3. What is a doctor called that specializes in lung health?
Options.
Oh, boy, okay. Pulmonologist, endocrinologist, or a rheumatologist?
Let's go with endo. Final answer.
All right.
All right. Question 4. What is the capital of Finland?
Options.
Stockholm, Oslo, Helsinki.
Stockholm's Sweden, so we'll eliminate that. Oslo or Helsinki? Let's go with Helsinki. Final answer.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Tough.
Dan, are you ready?
I am so ready.
All right. Let's go in order, Dan. Let's go in order so you and I are on the same page here. Bill versus
trust
Marsh.
me on this
I
one?
absolutely do. Just want to make sure that you and I are on the same page. We're executing the same game plan.
All right.
Question number 1. What arena do the Utah Jazz play their home games at? Bill, you took the options. You went Amway Center. Marsh, you eliminated Amway Center because you said the Orlando Magic play there. You took Hertz Arena. Correct answer is
Delta Center.
The Delta Center is where the Utah Jazz call their home. So we have a 0-0 tie between Bill and Marsh. Question 2. What color do players have to wear at the Wimbledon tennis tournament? Marsh, you said white. Bill, you said white. Correct answer is
White.
neither of you needed the options on that one. So we have a 2-2 tie between Bill and Marsh. What is a doctor called that specializes in lung health? Bill, with the options, you went with endocrinologist. Marsh, with the options, you went endocrinologist. Correct answer is
Pulmonologist.
pulmonologist is the correct answer on that. So we have a 2-2 tie.
Wow.
What is the capital of Finland? Marsh, you said Helsinki. Bill, you also said Helsinki.
Oh,
Correct
my
answer
goodness.
is
Helsinki.
you know we're going here.
Ooh.
Bill didn't need the options though.
Oh, my.
You have chosen wisely.
Bill with the Helsinki, no options, propels him to a Gauntlet championship tomorrow. Bill, you'll take on me. Congratulations. You won 4-3 over Marsh. You had the same questions right, same questions wrong, but again, you did not need the options on the Helsinki. So nice job, Bill. Congrats.
Thank you.
Have a great
I hope I
Halloween,
get
Bill.
some kind of sports tomorrow.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be real nice. Yeah, this damn wheel loves the random, though, so we'll see. Bill, we'll call you tomorrow.
All right, thanks, man.
Good job, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Marsh, that was a tough one. That was a real tough one.
I'll tell you what was tough was the way that you finished it.
Well, you got to lead a little drama to it.
You
know?
let a lot of drama, and then it was more like salt in the wound.
It was because I saw Marsh going for that tie break because he's running the board.
Yeah,
and he knows if we have a walk off, he's got to play the walk off.
Yeah,
sounder.
he does.
So he was reaching for it. He needed to.
I didn't think you were a team player. I'll be honest.
But we led with the drama.
You did, and it's about drama and selling drama.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you, I was sweating bullets over here thinking about it.
Yeah. And you knew the answers.
I did. Just wasn't sure how it was all going to shake out.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention. And you reminded me at the end.
Bill, great guy. It's about time one of those nice people ended up taking me down.
Yeah, you have waxed.
You're kind of like Randy, man. You take a loss hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's just tough. You know, I'm a very competitive person. I hate losing.
Okay.
As much as I like to win, I just hate losing. And whatever it is.
That's a good competitor right there.
Hey, you know, Bill deserves it. Bill's been on a heater, and we haven't even hit a sports category yet.
No.
So.
Which terrifies me.
Yeah.
Because his knowledge is probably big time in sports and such.
I'm sure it'll spin random tomorrow.
Let's just do this right now. Let's just see what happens here. Because if it comes up random, we have a loaded wheel.
Yeah, we don't need that.
And
I mean, we need to make sure.
we don't need a loaded
I need to put
wheel.
Tyler a wheel back
It's
on.
going a little right, then sometimes it goes left.
Yeah.
And that thing's still spinning.
I spun that thing. Now, the interesting part here is when it starts to slow down and then it picks up speed again, and then it just lands on random.
Oh, that's a loaded wheel.
We got a loaded wheel.
That's a loaded wheel.
Yeah, we don't need that. We'll fix that during the break.
We have a loaded wheel on our hands.
Wow.
Yeah. We'll fix that. Let's see.
I don't like that. I don't like that one bit.
No. Dan,
work on it.
Let's get on that. All right. It's the Fast Lane on 101 to ESPN. Should the Blues or Cardinals go into a full rebuild? We'll get into that next on 101 ESPN. You know, I talk about the Auto Center's Nissan Herculaneum process, and I talk about how easy it is, how fun it is to get a vehicle from Auto Centers, and how great they are when it comes to selection, pricing, making you feel like you're taken care of. I know that firsthand because my wife and I are looking at new vehicles right now. We're looking at pre-owned vehicles, and they've got both new Nissans at Auto Center's Nissan Herculaneum as well as certified pre-owned vehicles. They have over 700 vehicles on the lot alone. And if you go out to Herculaneum, you'll see the expansive selection of vehicles. They've got Rogues, they've got Pathfinders. I think we're going to wind up hopefully with a Pathfinder ourselves. But they've got other makes and models, all different kinds of mileages, and they do it right at Auto Center's Nissan Herculaneum. Plus, they give you the 30-day return promise on all new Nissans and the complimentary lifetime warranty as well when it comes to new Nissans. You could get your vehicle serviced there, too. Take advantage of the hot dogs and the fountain sodas, too. But the whole experience is fantastic. The people down there are what make Auto Center's Nissan Herculaneum a great car buying experience. So I highly encourage going out there. Again, tell them Stalter sent you out there. They'll hook you up with your next new ride, and you'll feel great about it. It's Auto Center's Nissan Herculaneum. Should the Blues or Cardinals go into a full rebuild? Dan McLaughlin filling in for Jamie Rivers. Andrew Marsh here. For the Cardinals, I don't think it's necessary.
No.
In fact, I think it would ruin any sort of progress that they made with the offense.
I don't think you're allowed to do that here in St. Louis.
Did you hear that a little bit where fans are like, I just wish they would tank and...
Why would you do that in the last 25 years, though?
Yeah, you wouldn't.
You never had to. And then this year, if you had any kind of pitching, you'd be at least kind of like the Blue. You might be around 500. You might be competitive. You would be competitive in a lot more games. So I don't see a full rebuild at all because your two corners are pretty good. Up the middle, you should be all right. Your outfield is going to be settled. Your everyday lineup is fine.
Yes.
And they're going to score some runs. But where the rebuild needs to happen, and it's just happens to be a huge part of the game, is pitching. Mm-hmm. And I've been trumping this, is that you need to not only get arms for your rotation, but they've got to do something with that bullpen too.
Yes.
Sign a bullpen arm, like somebody you can count on back into games. If you have to overpay for them, then I do it. But I look at the bullpen being just as important right now in the way the game's played, and how much the bullpen was used. Ineffectiveness as starters was part of it. Analytics is another part of it. Guys just don't go deep. So they need help in their bullpen as much as they do right now with their rotation.
Agreed. Yeah, you have to. Does it make sense to rebuild? Yeah, you got to rebuild the entire pitching staff. Everybody knows it. Fans know it. Fans have been screaming about it. They're 100% right. We've been screaming about it. The Cardinals know it. They know it. The front office knows it. It's one of those things that is so painfully obvious that if you screw it up, it's only because the market, you didn't judge the market correctly. You didn't sell the experience to a free agent to come in. You didn't come in with the right money or the term. That's how you screw this up. There's no way that anybody in that front office believes that they're in good shape from an internal standpoint. They've got some guys that they're excited about, but you cannot sit there, finish in last place, look at your empty red seats throughout the course of the season and say, we're just going to roll with what we have within this organization. You need a complete rebuild for this pitching staff.
Yeah, I look at Gallegos, Helsley, and I would get another back-end type pitcher that is willing and has experience closing games out.
Yeah.
Not knowing what they're going to do with Helsley, but I do know this. He's not available to pitch every night.
No.
I do know this. Gallegos at times is, but sometimes he's not as consistent as you would like him to be. And I would like to see a Josh Hader type in St. Louis. I mean, I don't know if that's feasible, but that's somebody I would look at. And then after that, it's so interesting to watch bullpens across the league because guys have good years, then they have bad years, and then it's a couple good years and might be a couple bad years. There's inconsistency in trying to put a bullpen together. But I can tell you this, there are arms that will emerge, and sometimes you have to go deep into your farm system and say, I'm going to take this guy that's starting at Memphis, and he's going to go in our bullpen. Traditionally, that's how they would like to ingratiate a player to the big leagues.
Yeah.
Adam Wainwright's a great example.
Sure.
He was in the bullpen. Some of that was out of necessity with Jason Isringhausen getting hurt, and then got his feet wet in a big way,
yep,
and closing out a World Series, becoming the closer, and then graduated towards the starting rotation.
Lance Lynn's
another one. So I think you can do it that way. I don't know if it's ideal in 2023, but that may be what they're looking at depending on how much money they have dedicated to what they want to do in free agency.
Dan, we often get this text, especially now that his name has essentially been cleared. Would you take a one-year flyer on Trevor Bauer?
Oh,
it's a loaded question, I realize.
It's a tough one. That'd be a tough one. Now, if I could take away everything that's happened, yeah, in a heartbeat I would. But with the baggage that he brings, I don't know if I could. I don't know. I mean, we live in a society like with dealing with that, and I don't know. It'd be a tough one to do.
It's a tough one because even if you look at the details of what transpired, there's still a lot of former teammates that do not like him.
Did you see?
He rubs people the wrong way. Garrett Cole was his teammate at UCLA.
I did a game where I did a series out at UCLA when they were 1-2. Yeah.
That was one of the best UCLA teams ever.
They wound up losing in the Super Regional, but they were, you had those two guys, you should not lose.
And those two guys did not like each other then.
Yeah.
Just because Bauer kind of marches to the beat of his own drummer, he's kind of got a chip on his shoulder. He's not interested in making any sort of friends, which is fine if you want to be that way, but it's a little tough to ingratiate yourself to your teammates if you're like that.
Did you see Charles Barkley on the opening of the NBA season? They had the commissioner on, and he said, point blank, what are we going to do about domestic abuse?
Yeah.
And he cornered in the commissioner, and you could see it was uncomfortable. And I'm not sure that teams, not just the Cardinals, but I'm talking about any team in baseball wants to touch that.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do. Now, based on pure talent, I would bring him in, and I don't care if he ruffled feathers or not. If he's helped me win and is not so disruptive where I'm losing a bunch of games because of him. He did it in Cincinnati, won a bunch of games.
Yeah.
I don't know if I guess I'd have to know more details, which I don't know.
Yeah.
And to say I would bring him in. I don't know how much money they have dedicated to the rotation. I would say this. In general, I would throw money at one-year flyers, bounce-back guys.
I agree.
100% would I do that.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, it's not a 5-man rotation.
Right.
It's really like a 7 or 8-man rotation. And if I've got highly motivated guys that are trying to bounce back to get another bite of the apple, I'm all about it.
Yes.
And I've been saying that for a long time. I like the guys that you try to get it back on that bounce-back one-year deal.
Yep.
But I've got my bets. I'm hedging my bets because I've got some guys waiting in the wings or guys that can fill gaps, which we know. Some of those guys we saw this year. But I'd be willing to take that chance because they're going to need to.
Yeah.
We got a text from the 314, and you mentioned the Blues a part of this conversation as well.
Yeah.
The 314 says, from a business perspective, both teams probably should, and that is go for a full rebuild. The economic outlook is a little sketchy. While the Cards have always been frugal, the Blues have been spending somewhat wildly, and some of those decisions are obviously regretted, hence the attempt to trade Krug this past summer. Fans will hate it, but looking at the Blackhawks, they could have a seriously legit team for a very long time.
Okay, so here's the troubling aspect for the Blues. Not troubling. The challenge here. As the texter just mentioned, yes, they have spent, and they've also gotten to a point where they got guys that are on that have no trade clauses. Mm-hmm. Torrey Krug being one of them. You've got a slew of guys, in fact, that you've paid and have no trade clauses. So even if you wanted to go into a bit of a rebuild, it makes it very difficult. So I think both teams actually should just stay the course.
Yeah, and continue to develop some of your younger players.
And the Cardinals obviously you got to build.
Yeah, I think, though, the Cardinals more so than the Blues because it's a cap system with the NHL. If you want, it's up to you. I don't sign the checks, but if you want and go out and spend a bunch of money to improve your team, immediately, you probably can do that.
Yeah.
A good example is what we're seeing right now in the World Series. Here's a team that 2 years ago lost 110. The other team that went out and spent a lot of money lost 102 games. Mm-hmm. You can turn it around fairly quickly.
Yeah.
They go out and get Simeon. They go out and get Seager. They trade for a Max Scherzer. They signed DeGrom. Look at that team, and they have a bunch of talent coming. This is a year ahead of schedule, by the way, for the Rangers. They were thought to be, from the people that I talked to in baseball, they said, man, you got to see the talent they have coming. And 2024 was the year that they thought, okay, we're going to compete with the big boys, and we're ready to go. So I think you got to sprinkle in both, ideally. Do I think that both need to be blown up? Probably not. I would also say for many years with the Blues, and this is not a good example, but they were really close on a bunch of teams and then never had to rebuild, so to speak. They got bad, really bad, when they drafted Eric Johnson #1 overall.
Yeah.
That was an awful team prior to that, and subsequently some teams after that, and it took a while to get back. I think fans would accept it more so with the Blues than the Cardinals. I think that's the question, too. I still think there's, even though Doug Armstrong has come out and said to his players, hey, the honeymoon's over. Our grace period is over after winning the Cup. I think from a fan's perspective, not all, but some are saying, if we had to do this, I could accept it. Be tough to swallow, but I'd probably be able to accept it. I don't think the Cardinals get off that way. I think fans say, no. We've had so much winning here in St. Louis, sustained success, and that's the expectation. That should be the norm.
Yeah.
I think for me, if the team is going to be bad, essentially, I would rather see some of the upcoming players like we did towards the end of the year with the Cards. You saw Mason win, and a lot of people wanted to see him. So if the Blues are on that trajectory this year, now we're only 6 games into the season, but let's say they have a year like they did last year, there's a lot of players that I would like to see come up. You have Dvorsky, who probably won't be up, but you have Bolduc is a guy that I think some people have been asking questions about. You have Jimmy Snuggerud, who's playing at Minnesota whenever the Frozen Four is over, or let's say, whenever their season ends. Hopefully it's before the Frozen Four because I'm a North Dakota guy and I don't want them to win. But maybe he's a player that we see at the end of the year. And hopefully the Blues are in a playoff spot to where maybe he does join the team late in the year like Cale Makar did for the Colorado Avalanche, and then he just plays right into the playoffs. That could be another goal scorer that could help this team. But I want to see some of these younger players because they are the future of this team, and it's not just Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou. I think there's a lot of players that the Blues have, and we saw this year 3 first-round draft picks. There's a lot of prospects that I'm really excited about seeing, so we'll see how things pan out.
Joey Vitale will join us in about 15 minutes. Let's do our NFL stock market next in the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN.
ESPN Sports Center.
I'm Andrew Marsh. It's time for a Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Texas Rangers defeated the Arizona Diamondbacks last night, Game 3 of the World Series. Final score 3-1. They'll be back in action tonight for Game 4, and you can catch it right here on 101 ESPN. Pregame starts at 6 o'clock. Also last night, Monday Night Football, the Lions took down the Raiders 26-14. And tomorrow, the Blues will take on the Colorado Avalanche. Pregame starts at 7:30. Puck drop is at 8:30. We'll talk with Joe Vitale coming up here in about 10 to 15 minutes, so stay tuned for that one. We have our NFL stock market coming up next. I'm Andrew Marsh, and the Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff. Finding roads and shop 24/7 at londoff.com and londoffAutoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
It's the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN. Dan McLaughlin filling in for Jamie Rivers today. I'm Anthony Stalter, and Andrew Marsh has got some NFL stock market questions for us.
All right, this week we're looking at all the teams that are in first place. So we'll start with the AFC East. Buy, sell, or hold the Miami Dolphins.
I am holding them, and the reason I would, Jalen Ramsey is back, cornerback that missed so much time, and defensively I think they're going to get better because they're allowing 330 points per game. That's 16th right now in the NFL. We know about their offense, and I think with Ramsey back, they're going to get better and better and better.
So is this for like winning the division?
I think it's more so how you see them faring in the playoffs.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of these teams are most likely going to end up winning their division.
I'm going.
Bold statement.
See, this is tough on the Dolphins. Look, I buy them because I really like this team. I also think that they're going to suffer a predictable death here when it comes to the postseason. They're going to face a team with a good defensive line, like they did in Philly, and they're going to get shut down, and that's going to be the end of them. But do I think that they're a scary team for any postseason match? Yeah, absolutely. But Kansas City could shut them down. Baltimore could shut them down. I think Jacksonville could give them some trouble with their speed on defense. Buffalo, I think they lost their top players defensively. I think it's going to be a different matchup this time around in South Beach when those two teams play again.
Well, you lead me to this. What about going to a cold weather city?
Exactly.
In the playoffs.
Yeah. Now, they fared okay against Buffalo, but Cincinnati proved last year that you could go into Buffalo and kind of push them around. You got to go into Baltimore in January. You got to go into Arrowhead into January. That's gonna be a tougher assignment.
Tough.
But I'm still gonna buy the Dolphins because I think they're a good playoff team or they're a good team. I think they're gonna win at least a playoff game. But again, I think they're gonna suffer a predictable death.
Who's gonna stop that defense or that offense? I mean,
Baltimore. I like Baltimore, Jacksonville, and Kansas City. The other teams.
I like Kansas City.
And we'll see how the two teams match up because that's the game. Is that this Sunday or next Sunday when those two teams play?
They go to Frankfurt, Miami, and Kansas City.
So they're off this. Oh, no, you're right. This weekend.
Yeah.
8:30 kickoff on Sunday morning.
I'll be watching.
That's a good matchup on Sunday morning.
You know, I've been thinking about this too. You think the NFL, even if the games aren't in Europe, would do themselves some favors here by having one game early, leads into the 1 Eastern, the noon kickoff locally. Then you have the 3:15 window, which leads into Sunday night football, and then doing a doubleheader on Monday night.
I like that. Marsh doesn't like the doubleheaders.
I like the doubleheaders on Monday,
but I do enjoy waking up on a Sunday morning and having kickoff at 8:30.
I guess though, to their television partners, it takes away from potentially, depending on when you'd start the game, potentially their pregame shows. So you've got to be good to your TV partners.
True.
They're driving the bus, right?
Yeah.
So if you take away from their pregame shows, and that includes ESPN having, 3 hours of pregame coverage before the game's at noon. I think they start at 9.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Fox or CBS would say, yeah, we're all about that, and we're okay with people tuning into us at 11:30.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's something to think about with it, I guess.
From a fan perspective, I would love to see it.
I would too.
What you're talking about, that could be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold on Miami But I am selling the Baltimore Ravens.
Now, why would you go ahead and do that?
Because Joe Burrow and company are playing good football.
They are playing good football. I'm going to stick with my Ravens, though. I'm going to buy them.
New coordinator, Lamar Jackson,
is playing great.
He could be the MVP.
He looks great. The defense is underrated. Not enough people talking about the defense. The only team that has a better point differential right now in the AFC than the Baltimore Ravens is the Buffalo Bills.
Lamar Jackson has a 72% completion rate right now. 72%, and per attempt it's at 8 yards, and he's playing well.
And how that's the key. That's that second number, that 8
yards per attempt.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Think about it too. The Ravens, I think, at one point, and maybe it still holds up, they've had the most drops in the NFL.
That's amazing. I didn't know that.
Still completing.
Wow.
72% or whatever you said. So that's impressive. I'm buying the Ravens.
I'm buying them too.
Dan, you make a great point. I'm actually going to hold on the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I'm going to hold because what you said changed my mind. The Jacksonville Jaguars.
I'm buying them too. I like Jacksonville, the way that they played. They went out to London and they've looked like a different team since that point. You know, they got run over by Houston in week 3. Then they went out to London, took care of business against the Falcons and Bills, respectively. Came back home, knocked off the Colts, and then had 2 tough road games. I know the Saints aren't great. No, the Steelers aren't great. Those are 2 tough environments to win on. Short week against the Saints, hung 31 on them, held on for the win, and then went to Pittsburgh after that and really thoroughly dominated an overmatched Pittsburgh team. So I'm in on Jackson.
I am too. They have a bye this weekend, but after this past weekend, they have more wins than 3 other teams in the AFC South. And to me, Trevor Lawrence is the real deal. He's just getting better and better and better. So I'm buying them. I'm in.
Hey.
I'm in.
I'm buying them.
Marshy, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm buying Jacksonville as well. Kansas City is the next team. I'm going to buy the Chiefs, even though they just lost to Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos.
You still have to buy. That defense has played very well. They turned the ball over 5 times against Denver. Patrick Mahomes was playing under the flu.
That's what I was going to say.
They're going to be fine.
Get him some cough medicine, and I love the Chiefs.
Yeah. They're going to make a deep run.
Yep.
They're built for the postseason.
No doubt.
And wait until Rice develops as a number 1 complement to Travis Kelce, or, a 2 to Travis Kelce's 1.
Yep.
Next team, NFC East, Philadelphia Eagles.
So the NFC is weak overall. I got to buy the Eagles. Now, they haven't played their best football, and Jalen Hurts looks banged up.
You know who looks awesome, though? I mean, he is awesome.
A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown.
Mm-hmm.
I looked it up the other day. He is 6'1", 230 pounds playing wide receiver.
He's a beast.
He's awesome. He had 8 catches Sunday against Washington for 130, and he's had in 6 straight games 125 receiving yards or more, which has never been done in the NFL, ever. And he's the guy that's got the record.
Yeah.
6 straight games of 125 yards or more receiving.
He's incredible.
I'm buying them as well. I liked what Jalen Hurts said. I believe it was 2 weeks ago. He saw A.J. Brown running down the field, and now they have Julio Jones on the team.
Yeah.
And he went up to Julio and was like, I thought that was you. The way that he was running, and obviously the numbers are different. But Julio used to be number 11.
Yeah, and Julio's a big dude. And I think A.J. Brown wears 11 because of Julio.
Yeah, that's why there was some confusion there.
Julio, big dude.
Cut, man, too. Yeah. He's ripped up. He's a beast.
Next team, a team that we talked about earlier today, Monday Night Football winners against the Raiders, the Detroit Lions. Buy, sell, or hold.
Got to buy them, too.
Yep.
You got to buy in the Lions.
Gibbs, breakout game.
Defense,
start doing that.
Defense, once again, I mean, they put a lot of pressure on the statue that was Jimmy Garoppolo last night. They were banged up against Baltimore, and Baltimore took advantage of them and, ran roughshod over them. But I think every loss that they suffer like that is going to make that team better.
You're going to roll your eyes at me, but I also think with the way that they're playing at home with that crowd, the crowd is different now in Detroit. You know better than anybody.
That football, that's a football city.
It is.
They're rabid fans. That's not a bandwagon fan.
We talked about it earlier. They haven't had a playoff game since January of 1994 at home.
They'll get that place loud.
And that place was rocking last night. That was fun to watch.
Yeah, it's a cool stadium, too, Ford Field.
It is.
All right, last two here. Atlanta Falcons.
All right. Sell. Arthur Smith's going to put Desmond Ridder back under center. And they're going to lose to the They're going to lose to the Vikings because Ritter's going to throw. He's going to throw 3 picks and turn the ball over another 3 times with fumbles. He should play Taylor Heineke, but he won't. And the Saints are going to win that division.
So we're all selling Atlanta.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Exactly why he said
absolutely
QB controversy. Shouldn't be. Taylor Heineke should start after what he did.
Led the team on 4 consecutive scoring drives.
4 of 6 in the second half, and they're putting up points.
Yeah, the only reason it got stopped is because they had to have Van Jefferson in a deal with the Rams. Had to have him. Dropped the ball on a 4th down. It could have extended the drive.
Can't win with him.
Can't win with him, period. He's not a competitor.
I did my Mike Singletary.
You did.
Can't win with him.
Can't do it.
All right,
Can't do it.
Last team here before we get to Joe Vitale, Seattle Seahawks.
I will hold on the Seahawks until the 49ers play like the 49ers again.
I'm going to hold on them. Because they got Baltimore this weekend. So there you go.
Let me tell you something about Seattle. They could have lost every game that they've won this year. They could have lost outside of the Panthers and Giants. So I shouldn't have said every. They could have lost the Lions easily in Detroit. Could have lost to the Cardinals 2 weeks ago, and probably should have lost to Cleveland last week. I'm not a fan, but they're piling up wins. The Pete Carrolls are piling them up. All right, well, let's get to Joey Vitale next on 101 ESPN.
Joey Vitale views things a little differently. Just imagine how he looks at hockey. Whoa. This is The View from Vitale, brought to you by Scott Lee Heating Company, a proud Mitsubishi Electric Elite contractor.
Tonight we have the Diamondbacks and Rangers with pregame starting right after our show at 6 o'clock. But tomorrow night you got the Blues at the Avalanche, pregame starting at 7:30 right here on your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN. And one of the voices you'll hear on the pregame and the, of course, is the color analyst. And then the postgame is Joey Vitale, who joins us right now via the 101 ESPN Celebrity Line. With Dan McLaughlin filling in for Jamie Rivers, I'm Anthony Stalter. What's up, Joe?
Hey, Stalls, what's going on? Danny Mac, what do you say? Just doing that Halloween thing. You know how it goes.
Oh, I do. Mine are getting a little bit older, though. I remember you and I talking about Halloween. I don't have any going out for candy that I know of. Anthony has got a whole stock full of candy and kids, so he'll be doing it, and I know you'll be doing it as well, so good luck and Godspeed.
Joe, you got 13 now, right? About 13?
Yeah, I'm working on 13. I tell you what, maybe 13, not my wife. But no, hey, we're looking forward to it. We live in Kirkwood, so it's a great little area. We're, of course, just down the street from your big bro, Kev.
Oh, yeah.
And, we'll hopefully make a stop at the great Kevin's house because he always throws out king size.
That's the key, man. I told him, I said, you want to win and curry favor with neighbors, just give them the full-size candy bars. And that's just for the parents, okay?
Listen, I don't know what's going on these days. These kids are getting they're getting soft and they're getting spoiled. The 2 S's, soft and spoiled. I gave out regular size last year. I thought I was the king of the neighborhood. And this one kid looks at me, he's like, regular size? What is it, a joke? And he kind of looked at me with a big scowl on his face. Like, get out of here. Go make a cake. You want to fight about it?
Wow.
Man, I want to throw down with an 8-year-old. But apparently, if it's not king size, the kids are just moving on these days.
What are the costumes? What do you got lined up?
I was going to ask that. Run through the baker's dozen for us.
Okay, so we got the Shep dog. Shepherd is a choo-choo. Oh, no, he's an excavator train-ish thing with a hard hat.
Wait a minute,
Birdie
the dog?
Is, the Shep dog. We call him the Shep dog. It's Shepherd. We call him Shepherd.
Well, I got that, but you mean you're getting the dog dressed up too?
No. This is my son. We call him, his name's Shepherd.
I'm losing my mind here. I'm like, wait a minute, you guys are doing dogs and kids?
Oh no, Danny Mac, come on. I'm barely a feed the dog a day.
I understand.
Let alone, you know what I'm trying to say. Okay, so Shepherd is an excavator choo-choo train combo.
That's
Birdie
awesome.
is Cinderella. She was going to be Elsa all along. We were all decked out for months, and then last night she decided she wants to be Cinderella. So I was at Target all day across the city of St. Louis trying to find a Cinderella costume, but we landed it. So I was pumped about that. Bodie is a scary scream mask, red blood cell thingy on his face, kind of a spooky thing. Harper is Iceman from Top Gun.
Nice.
And my daughter Summer, who is about to turn 13, says, Daddy, I want to be the green gummy bear. All my friends dressing up as gummy bears. Well, these kids these days, these teenagers, they like to push the envelope with the whole clothing thing. I was thinking like a big, like stuffy bear costume. No. It's like skimpy. So I'm like, no, you're not doing that. You're changing to something different. So we had to make a little stop to Kohl's. We found some green stuff that looks more appropriate, so we're all good to go.
Awesome.
Perfect.
I love it.
All right, Joe. We were talking about the Blues a little bit early on, and I had made the point because we had the question of, are the Blues a playoff team? I made the argument we don't know what the Blues are, period, at this point. Given the inconsistencies, is that an accurate statement that we can't even determine whether or not they're going to be a playoff team because we don't know who they are right now?
Well, it's a great question. Obviously, it's on the front of every Blues fan's mind, and I think that the outlier, or maybe the asterisk, or the big question mark, if you will, given how the season's going, to me is going to be the veteran leadership of this team. And what I mean by that is, for you guys watch the games. We've seen it really, really good. We've seen it, a team that goes into Calgary doesn't give them a sniff. We've seen them host the Pittsburgh Penguins, some of the best players in the world, first ballot Hall of Famers, and they didn't give them a sniff. We've seen it look really good. We've seen Bennington shut the door completely. And then we've seen it look really, really bad. We've seen the Arizona Coyotes come to town and just shellac the Blues. We saw what we saw the other night in Vancouver, which was maybe one of the most lopsided Blues losses I've seen since my tenure here. It's my 6th year in the booth. So we've seen the really good and we've seen the really bad. So where do we go from here? I think that as you look at all these teams that, for the most part, it's a lot of up and down. I think that you look at the first 10 to 15 games, every player will say the same thing. I had a great conversation with Robert Bortuzzo about this. I said, what are you thinking? He said, you never know. You really never know until about games 10 to 12 to 15 as far as how this team is going to come together or not come together. I mean, that was kind of the litmus test last year, of course, as we saw. And, of course, they don't make the playoffs because they just went on that 8-game losing streak. So for this year, what will we see moving forward? It just comes down to the leadership. I know Craig Berube. I've been talking to Steve out on the side. They have a game plan, and when it looks good, it looks really good. And when the players kind of deviate from that game plan and get away from it, it looks really bad. So the coaches have the right mindset. The coaches have the right philosophies. They have the right intangibles and the right logistics. Now is it going to come down to Braden Shen and, of course, Robert Thomas, Justin Falk, Colton Parayko, I mean, you name it. Can those guys continue to relay the message in the way the coaches need them to this team? And more importantly, guys, hold this team accountable when it goes astray. And that's what they really struggled with last year was the message from the coaching staff, not getting through the players, and then, of course, the players not holding themselves accountable. So to me, that is going to be the big question mark to see where this team goes and how they move forward and whether they become a playoff team or not.
Hey, Joey, I'm sure you were on teams that were inconsistent, and the Blues right now are inconsistent. So outside of some of the things you're talking about, how about X's and O's or lineup changes, things that a coaching staff can do? And I'm not just talking about the Blues, but in hockey in general, how can you make yourself a more consistent team?
I mean, listen, it's a great question. I can only lean on my experiences, Danny Mac, and I look at some of the years in Pittsburgh where we had some really great teams. Teams that have gone to the conference finals back-to-back years and just couldn't get over the hump. But some really good teams, President Trophy winning teams. And I know that at times when the season got a little away from us, or in the playoffs, if we were down in the series, 3-1 or 2-0. To me, it always came back to what I was just talking about, the leadership. I remember being in the locker room and hearing Dan Bilesma and hearing Ray Shero, the GM, come in there and kind of, bark orders and kind of dictate how we want this thing to go. And then they left, right? But they're only there for a sample size. They're only there for 10 minutes. And then you're left with who? The guys in that room, right? And then that's where you kind of subtly lean over. And I remember just, kind of observing Sidney Crosby, right? Not only the things he said, but then how he approached the game and the temperature in those series, they would rise. And then his game would take it up to a whole nother level. And that's where I go back to, it's got to come from that leadership group. It's got to come from Braden Shen. It's got to come, from players like Robert Thomas to go out there and just start to kind of grab this thing. Because when they do it, right, we all see it. We all see everyone on the bench kind of like find that extra level. Okay, hey, Braden just got in a big tilt. He got 2 hits. He, started to scrap. Big goal in the first. This guy's ready to rock. Let's follow our captain. Let's all jump in because he's a guy that brings someone into the fight. I remember when Crosby at times, we'd be in a bad series and he would fight Claude Giroux or fight Joe Thornton. And you're like, oh, my God, here's your captain. Here's your franchise goal scorer, future Hall of Famer. He's getting in fights. He's willing to do anything. We all got to jump in too, right? So you go from the messaging of the coach. How do you find consistency? It's just the messaging, and then it filters down to the veteran players, and it's really going to come down to that core group. Like I mentioned, we all know the names. I'll also throw, Torrey Krug and, of course, Nick Leddy in the mix there as well because they're certain leaders, guys have been around the league a long time. Can they figure out a way to galvanize this group, lead by example, and all of a sudden you grab a spark and you find that magic and you go on a run? And, again, a lot of question marks to be seen.
Joe, before we let you go, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you about the power play. If there was one thing, and it's not an easy fix, I understand that, but if there was one thing that could be tweaked to enhance even more shots when it comes to the power play, what would that be?
One-timers. Just stalled simply one-timers. You need more one-timers. You need not only the one-timers at the net, you need one-timers as a threat. I remember killing penalties, and, of course, the longest-tenured Blue, Robert Bortuzzo. He survived longest in this league on this team, and he survived as long as he has in this league because of one thing. He blocks a ton of shots, and he's a great penalty killer. So if anyone knows it, he knows it. We were killing penalties at the same time. We both know what it takes. We both know what you're looking at. When you have a scouting report and you're going up against the Washington Capitals and you see Alex Ovechkin on the board, he's healthy, he's in tonight, you have to respect the one-timer. When we were playing the Winnipeg Jets and you knew Patrick Laine into the league, got a wicked one-timer on that right side, you had to, of course, you had to respect it. Whether it was Nico Ranson on the left side when you play in Colorado, you have to respect it. So what happens is, they have a lethal one-timer. So the kill actually has to spread out. You want to stay tight, but you can't stay tight because you have to respect this dude over here who's going to absolutely laser one if you don't kind of get in his kitchen a little bit and deter a shot. So when that separation happens, when you're killing, because of this respect you have for this one-timer over here, then where it opens up, right in the middle. All these gaps start to kind of open up in the middle. Right now, the Blues, and this kind of goes back even to the years you have Vladimir Tarasenko, because he hated taking one-timers. He wanted to be on his offside. I think the Blues can certainly benefit from having a one-timer. The closest thing they've had this year has been Jakub Vrana. We've seen him in the preseason have a couple goals. He had a lightning rod of chances there. I believe it was in the Pittsburgh game on the power play. But now because of this 5-on-5 play, he's out of the lineup. So who's it going to be? Who's going to be the next guy that can establish a one-timer? Once you start doing that, then things really start to open up. But if you don't have that, it's going to continue to be a little bit stagnant, where the passes aren't really connected. And then, of course, you don't do what you're supposed to do, which power plays are supposed to do besides score goals, is create momentum for the game.
Joe, great stuff. Looking forward to listening to you tomorrow night. Hey, enjoy the Halloween experience tonight with the kids.
Sounds good, Stalt. Danny Mac, you guys have a great day. Happy Halloween.
Same to you. Thanks.
Happy Halloween.
Thanks, Joe. It's Joe Vitale here in the Fast Line on 101 ESPN. Dan McLaughlin filling in for Jamie Rivers, and we've got what's trending next.
What's trending in the world of sports? The Fast Lane has you covered. What's trending now?
Brought to you by Goodwill. Donate to Goodwill to win a magical Polar Express staycation.
Welcome back to the Fast Lane here on 101 ESPN. Anthony Stalter, Dan McLaughlin, I'm Andrew Marsh, and it's time for What's Trending. Guys, it looks like Adolis Garcia will not be in the Rangers lineup tonight. Game 4 of the World Series. He left the 8th inning after appearing to injure his left side during an at-bat. How big of a blow is this for the Texas Rangers?
Man, their lineup is chock full, but he has been the hottest hitter in this lineup, not named Corey Seager, so that stinks. He was apparently in good spirits. If you read some of the reports, he was walking through the Rangers clubhouse. He told reporters all as well, so maybe he can avoid any sort of long layoff by taking tonight off, but it's certainly an issue.
Do you guys see his throw too? Defensively, he's got a big arm.
Yep.
Yeah, that's one thing that these two teams have in common. The fewest errors, 1 and 2 in the majors this year. 57 for Texas, 56 for Arizona. So you talk about how the games change, and we can talk about home runs, and we can talk about power pitching, but fundamentals still wins. You don't commit errors, you got a great chance of winning. And I remember doing a show with you early in the baseball season. We talked about how the Cardinals were committing so many errors, and it was costing them. This was not a buttoned-up defensive team like we've seen in the past years. So something to consider moving forward is just fundamentally staying sound. I also think part of the Cardinals' issue was moving guys around. Some of it was out of necessity.
I agree.
You know, I mean, why is Brendan Donovan on the shelf right now? Well, he's playing out of a position. Who knows what happened with his arm? You know, you had Tommy Edman, who, by the way, played a great center field, but you had him in center. You know, that was some of the issues, I think, too, for the Cardinals, is not being stable in terms of where guys are positioned all year.
Dan, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
I know that this is the one example, right? And they've got studs, but the Braves don't move around that much. Now, they juggle in and out a little bit when it comes to, like, using Sean Murphy in certain spots or depending on their DH, but they typically roll out the same lineup every day.
Plug and play.
And I've wondered, we talked about this recently about like the Yankees, for example. The Yankees are one of these teams that they utilize that DH in the same manner the Cardinals do, and the injuries just rack up and rack up and rack up. I think there's something to playing every day and knowing you're going to go to the post every day.
Yeah, and you're going to go to that post playing the same position. I mean, there are types that are like Ben Zobrist, who was great with the Chicago Cubs. You could play him anywhere. And it's great to have those kind of guys on your team. But I also think on the flip side, there is something to be said that, okay, Tommy Edman, you're at second base every day. Or Brendan Donovan, you're at second base every day. Or Tommy Edman, you're in center field every day. So you prepare differently for those positions. Your arm is in different condition for those positions. Yeah. And I do think there's something to that by staying steady defensively and where you put guys at.
Look at Jim Edmonds. Edmonds, the way he played, the way he focused on pitches that were being, depending on who was at bat, who was on the mound,
how the game was called,
positioning, getting himself in position constantly. If he's bouncing back, he's going to second and in center field, then he's in left. You think he's the same defender? I think he's an outstanding defender, but is he somebody that we view as one of the best defensive center fielders of all time? No, I wonder.
Yeah, I agree. It is something to consider moving forward.
You mentioned Tommy Edman. BK put out a tweet last night. He said, watching Alek Thomas this postseason makes me curious to find out what Tommy Edman could be if he's focused on becoming an everyday center fielder.
Yeah.
I think Alek Thomas has been great in the postseason.
Well, a lot of it, I think, would be, first of all, your outfield is in a state of flux. You don't know what's going to happen to Tyler O'Neill. You know Walker's going to be in there every day. You don't know about Dylan Carlson, but I can tell you, I think your team is better with two guys in it, one of them being Brendan Donovan, the other being Tommy Edman. And so if that means Edman's got to play center, put Donovan at second, then you have two guys in your everyday lineup.
I agree.
Guys, tonight, the first college football playoff top 25 of the season will be revealed at 6 o'clock local time. We talked about this yesterday, but Danny Mac, I wanted to get your thoughts on who you think will be in the top four.
I got Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, Ohio State. Those would be my four teams. Am I right?
I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I might flip Ohio State. Let's see. Ohio State's got the win over Notre Dame and Penn State, so they've got the 2 good wins. Florida State, I know, beat LSU.
You see Florida State's schedule left?
It is a cakewalk. Yeah, but I wonder. Florida State's been. I made this point yesterday. They've been walking the tightrope. They beat Duke by 18, but if you watch that game, it was all fourth quarter.
It was
with Florida State. They walked the tightrope a little bit against Virginia Tech. Definitely against Clemson. Definitely against Boston College.
I love the LSU win, though, on a neutral place.
Yeah.
At a neutral place. But that's to begin a season, too.
It's different.
Yeah, it's the opening game.
That's why Nick Saban always schedules that tough non-conference opponents first, so he has all summer to prepare for them. It's smart.
I also think that if you're a one-loss team, you better do it early and not late.
Sure.
So what if you have an SEC champion, and you and I have discussed this, SEC championship game where Georgia comes in undefeated, Alabama has 1 loss, Alabama defeats Georgia, are both on the outside looking in, or do you keep one of them in? And
I think both get in.
Is it the guy that, or the team that has recent bias, your recency bias or whatever? That would be Alabama.
Yeah.
Because they have the most recent win.
They're going to get in. I think this is how it shakes out. The winner of that Washington-Oregon Pac-12 title game, if that winds up being, it's probably going to be it. That team's going to get in.
Yep.
Regardless of if they had a 1 loss or that winner's going to be in. If whoever stays unbeaten between Michigan and Ohio State will get in. And then you've got that coin flip with Alabama. If they win against an unbeaten Georgia team that was ranked number 1 at the time, Alabama's getting in. And I don't think Georgia drops that far out. I think they probably go to 3.
The narrative, though, has been that the SEC is down this year. So,
it's a good point.
You have some people that would say, well, the SEC is not as good this year. We're not going to put in a 1-loss team.
And I think that's fair when you look at the conference top to bottom.
They would lose so much money. They will not let an SEC team not be in the top 4.
And that's what I said to you yesterday.
But I don't think they deserve 2 teams, though.
Oh, you're saying any? Oh no, they'll definitely have 1 team, and there's no doubt.
I'm going to throw a crazy scenario.
Think 2 if it's Bama.
What if Mizzou runs the table?
That would be great.
I mean, it'd be the most remarkable, unbelievable thing you've ever seen watching Missouri football.
And wins the SEC championship game. Well, they're in.
They'd be in.
Yeah.
I'm saying to my guys, if we run the table, we're getting in.
Yeah,
we're going to play for a national title.
They would have wins over Kansas State, Georgia, Tennessee would be the ranked teams, provided Tennessee still ranked a week from now. Plus
LSU would be if there's a good loss, Alabama.
In the SEC title game, Mizzou would get in.
Do you remember when Chase Daniel was with Mizzou and they had an opportunity to play West Virginia in the national championship game?
Mm-hmm.
And then
I'll take it even a step further.
Yeah.
At Arrowhead, you had, if you would have told somebody right now that had no idea of Missouri or Kansas history that they'd be playing for the number 1 spot in the country. They were 1 and 2.
Yeah.
They'd have said, you're off your rocker.
Yep.
Oh, I got it. Basketball, right? No. Football.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have thought you're insane.
Yep.
It happened.
Yeah, Kansas had some teams.
That was a really fun college football year because I believe there was a 2-loss team that made it to the national championship, if I'm not mistaken.
Florida State was in 99, I believe. They won in 2000. Florida State lost in 99, if memory serves correct, and then they won in 2000 over Michael Vick and Virginia Tech.
Was that the title game?
Sugar Bowl title game. And they went undefeated that year.
Vic was a sophomore.
Peter Warwick was on that team of Florida State. They were awesome. Chris Wenke was like a 10-year senior.
That would have been
2000. Yeah.
Is that right?
You got that, Marshy, who won in 2000. And 99 was then when Florida State lost, and then I think they won in 2000.
I think you're right.
I could be wrong. I might be right.
That was when Virginia Tech with Vic had 8 plays. 4 run,
Yep.
4 pass, and the 4 pass could turn into runs because of Vic.
Yeah, he had an option to do what he wanted. He was awesome.
He was
So that was the
incredible.
99 regular season. The 2000 national champion was Florida State.
Okay.
Against
Virginia Tech.
So was I right? Was it 99 or 2000?
I didn't think Vic played in a title game.
He did.
Did he?
Yeah,
It was Florida State against Virginia Tech.
Yeah, good call, Dan.
Florida State got out, if memory serves correct. They were like up like 28-7 or something like that.
And
then
Vic got 'em back in.
Oh, Michael Vick put on a show.
Yeah.
And it wound up being like 45-42 final, something like that. Yeah.
Unreal.
I think Mizzou, though, and I said this yesterday, can't remember if it was on air or not, or just between the breaks, but I think Mizzou having one loss actually helps them from a mindset standpoint heading into Georgia.
Yeah, Mike.
Because they have nothing to lose.
Yeah. Oh, you're playing with house money for
100%.
sure.
Let's go in there and ruin their season. It's going to be
fun to
game.
watch. I can't wait to watch
I know,
it.
I'm looking forward to that.
It is going to be fun.
It's only Tuesday.
I know.
Got to wait the rest of the week here.
Who do we have on Thursday Night Football?
Steelers and the greatest of all time, Will Levis and the Titans.
All right. I'll be tuned in, of course, to help my buddies that have a vested interest in those games. I'm just trying to help people.
I get you, Dan. You're a people person.
That's what I am.
Yeah.
Trying to help people.
That's Dan McLaughlin, filling in for Jamie Rivers, who's helping Jamie today. Jamie's out sick. We've got our Sports Six-Pack, so if you got a question for us, send it into the Air Comfort Service text line at 314-399-9646. We had somebody over to the house recently to take a look at something, getting a bid on a project, and I was blown away by the expertise of this person, and kept talking about things. Said, I know exactly what the deal is. This is what you need to do. It's comforting as somebody that you maybe you don't know about, like interest rates and where they're going, or when it comes to purchasing a home, securing a loan, and making sure that you're in good shape. Well, that expert in our case here is our guy Stewie. And Jamie and I have used Stewie. We love him. He gives you that feeling when you call him, and whether you want to debt consolidate or you're looking at purchasing a home and you want to get just an extra opinion on a loan. That's what Stewie's going to make you feel like. He's going to talk to you like, hey, this is what's going on. This is how I can help you. This is how I can help you save money over the course of your loan. He's got programs like the Bagel Loan that if you're borrowing $200,000 or more, no closing costs, no lender fees, so that you can take that money and apply it to, how about the down payment on home, or making sure that you have the most attractive offer to that seller, or maybe you want to turn it into a man cave, or buy something else, refurnish the kitchen, upgrade the kitchen, whatever you want to do. Stewie's there to help you on that. And if you're in a spot where you need some help when it comes to debt and you don't know, you're not getting any sleep at night because the debt's mounting, call Stewie. He'll help you out. I promise you on that. 314-324-4440, or you could Google the Bagel Loan.
NMLS number 226715.
It's time for the Fast Lane to answer your sports questions.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want to have them answered immediately.
Asking me all these weird questions.
Answer the question.
Answer the question.
Answer me!
The Sports Six-Pack is refreshed by Maggie O'Brien's, your go-to Irish pub in St. Louis for over 42 years.
All right, if you got a question for us, send it into the Air Comfort Service text line at 314-399-9646. Dan, go ahead.
Question 1, please.
Question number 1.
From the 217, is there anything we can say to get Cardinal fans to stop bringing up players we don't have anymore? We get it, but so many people keep bringing it up, and I'm tired of it, as I'm sure you are.
Yeah, just don't let players get away. That would help. No, I understand the frustration of Cardinal fans, and this one I do. I mean, when you have two different guys wind up being postseason heroes. Now, if this happened in a 2-week stretch, 3-week stretch in July with these players, probably not talking about it. But when you're on the biggest stage, it gets magnified, and it's tough to swallow from a fan's perspective. I get it.
Which one hurts the most for you?
Rosarena. That one hurts. He had a good year at Memphis. I think he hit 347, and he was kind of blocked by their perspective of who they wanted to keep. Yeah. And now you see him as an everyday player and what he's doing. Garcia, not as much, just because, read the tea leaves. Everybody could have had him. He's DFA'd by Texas, for God's sake. So the one with the Rosarena is the one that frustrates me. And it does beg the question then of just evaluating your own talent. And you got to be better at that and make sure that guys like this don't get away.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think this past season has changed my perspective a little bit on like looking back. And it's all hindsight, right? I understand why they made the move. I understand what they were going for, and I understand that they got a really good year out of the two. They had him for 2 years. The one was really good, and he wound up going to the NLCS. However, I think the one that ticks me off the most is the Ozuna trade. Again, I understand why it was made, and you did get a good player in return. But when you give up pitching that develops into what it is, in this case, Sandy Alcantara, a Cy Young winner.
How come we don't talk about that as much?
Zach Gallen. Dan, if you don't have pitching, it doesn't matter who's hitting in the middle of your order.
Yeah.
And they need pitching. And they need pitching. I get it. It's hindsight. But Sandy Alcantara and Zach Gallen could be your 1-2 right now. Talk to me about that.
Instead of
this lineup that I think is pretty good. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you don't have the pitching, it doesn't matter. So I think that is the one where I look back and I say, I get it. I mean, you gave up 2 studs.
Well, I think collectively all 4, and with all 4 happening at a pretty relatively quick time period, it stings. I don't think he gets the credit, though, and I'm talking about Mo. I don't think he gets the credit for Holiday. I don't think he gets the credit for bringing in Berkman, Beltran, Goldschmidt, Arenado.
Revamping the entire bullpen in 11.
Yeah, I mean, there's some pretty darn good things he's done, too.
Matt Carpenter.
You're going to miss on some guys. Sure. They happen to miss.
Yeah, you're right.
Question 2, please.
Question number 2.
This one is from FedEx Brian. Marsh, this question is basically for you, but I will definitely love to hear what everybody else says. You just said a little while ago that you want to see all of these youngsters for the Blues play. The problem is there is a log jam. So who are you going to take out of the Blues lineup to supplement these younger players, because the contracts are not going to be dealt? So I would look at some of the unrestricted free agents. Kapanen, Verana, he already sat, was a healthy scratch. You have Sundqvist, who probably won't be taken out of the lineup. Everybody loves Sonny. But you also have Sammy Blais, if I didn't mention him already. So there's some players that are on expiring deals next year that if you aren't going to bring them back, you could see some of the younger players take their spot. And obviously injuries happen. We are so far away from any of that even happening. This team could go on a run and that won't even be an issue.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe we need to just be patient and see how the season plays out. But there's just to answer the question, I feel like those are some of the players that that could be taken out of the lineup.
That question was for you, so we move on to question 3, please.
Question number 3.
From the 573, what do you honestly think Mizzou's record will be at the end of the season? I'm afraid I'm getting my hopes too high. 10 wins.
I say they lose to Georgia.
I thought you were big on them winning.
No. I just gave some reasons as to why they could maybe cover.
Which is a big win for all friends.
No, I think, when you do have a couple weeks to prepare, that'll be something you have to look at. I mentioned the stats. They do mirror each other to an extent. They favor Georgia, but to an extent, I think they can make it interesting. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. And 15.5, I think they cover. Just saying. For my friends.
I got them at 9 wins. They're at 7 right now. I don't think they beat Georgia.
So now you're 7-2.
I think Tennessee's speed on offense gives them trouble.
I do too. And that's in Knoxville, right?
No, it's home.
Oh, that's home. Okay. I actually like them beating Tennessee.
Do you?
So that gets me to 8 wins.
And then they got Florida. I got them beating Florida.
That's 9.
And I got them beating Arkansas in Arkansas.
I agree with that. That's 10.
So you got 10. I got them at 9. I think Tennessee's speed offensively, it's not similar to LSU, but I think that winds up being an issue for them.
I think it being a home game puts them over the top on that one. And Florida, not very good this year.
No.
Watch Arkansas against Alabama.
No,
they played well, by the way.
You're right. They
had a chance to win that game.
Alabama started to pull away in the first half, and then they had nothing in the second half.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So Arkansas, though, is not with that.
They're 0-5 in the conference.
Exactly.
Right? 2-6 overall.
How Mizzou would it be if they beat Georgia and then lost to Tennessee?
Marsh, we told you, though. We had this discussion.
We take it one game at a time here, Marshy.
They Mizzou'd it.
The season's not over.
Look at the recruiting class they have for basketball.
They went into Lexington.
That's a different sport, Dan.
Fell behind 14-0 and won. It's over. And I'm
just
it.
floating the question out there.
I like it.
You could have 11 wins this year, realistically, because you have a bowl game too. You go 11-2.
You could.
Yeah, it could happen. Question 4, please.
Question number 4.
From the 636, happy Halloween, fellas. Best horror or scary movie of all time?
Oh, that's easy for me. The original Exorcist. I still have nightmares over it. I had to, sleep with my mom and dad after watching that as a young kid. Why they let me watch it as a young kid, I'm not sure. But they did. My mom didn't want that to happen, but my dad was like, he'll be fine. Next thing you knew, I was sleeping under the bed. A little nervous. A little scared.
Do the best ones have to almost come from your childhood? Because as an adult, you can rationalize things. I'm watching.
I went to a movie about a month ago, and they had previews maybe 2 months ago for The Exorcist, the new one.
Yeah,
and I closed my eyes.
Did you?
Yeah, I didn't want to see it.
Okay,
too scared.
It's deep rooted.
It is, man.
Hands over
Scarred.
the face.
What about you, Marsh?
I wouldn't say I like this movie because I've watched it once or twice, and that was enough for me. But Sinister is a scary movie.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard of it.
I don't recommend it if you do get easily scared. It's a really good movie, in terms of, being scared. I mean, I could give you a plot synopsis, but I would just recommend looking it up yourself.
Okay.
Pretty scary. There's another one.
Have you guys seen Saw? Any of those?
I have. I actually just watched Saw.
Yep.
That's more gory than it is scary.
Yeah.
I heard that'll get to your core.
It is a little messed up. And by little, I mean a lot, by everything that happens in it. But I don't know if it scares me.
Yeah, I can't say. There's movies where that you get that startle.
Right, you had the jump scares.
But in terms of being freaked out, I'll tell you one. I actually didn't see the movie, but I saw the opening scene. And I went down a YouTube rabbit hole one time, and this one got me because I've got kids. The latest It, which came out in 2017.
I didn't really like that movie.
But the only part that I saw was when the little boy is reaching for the boat.
In the balloon.
and homeboy's in the sewer.
Yeah. Hey, Georgie.
And then the kid comes out. I'm like, that got me as a parent. I'm like, I can't.
No.
It went right through me.
Be careful with your kids. Now, my daughter, who is 14, she's like, take me to every single scary movie you got. She loves them. Loves them. Like the adult scary movies.
Yeah, that's cool.
I can't handle it. I'm not a big scary movie guy.
Yeah, I'm okay on them. I enjoy them, but I haven't watched them in a long time because we got kids. It's not like we're sitting down and watching. And my wife doesn't like them.
Yeah, you're not like, hey kids, let's get around the table and watch The Exorcist.
Yeah. No. Who's up for Pet Cemetery?
Yeah. Anybody up for Pet Cemetery 2?
Yeah, no.
Come on, kids.
But I enjoy. I used to enjoy them. I've told the story before, but when I was in college. I watched The Ring because it came out during, when I was in college. And my roommate, I think, was traveling abroad. And it was, random night. I decided to rent a movie back when you still had like Blockbuster and all that.
Oh, I love Blockbuster.
So
me too.
Went to Blockbuster. I'm like, all right, it's, I don't know, Tuesday night or something like that. Nothing going on. I'm going to rent a movie. So I rented The Ring. And hand to God, this happened. You saw The Ring? Did you ever see the?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you know in the movie, that movie plays, and the next thing you know, phone rings, right? So at the very end of the movie, they go through that movie one more time. The movie that spurs my phone rang immediately after, and that we still had landline. I had a cell phone. And we still had the landline back in the day, right? That phone rang as soon as that movie. It was my buddy, right? Like I picked up the phone, but I fully admit I'm like, hello?
Yeah. It's a little nerve-wracking.
Dude.
That happened to me one time. I was watching a movie called Oculus. I don't know if you two have seen it, but
seen it.
Have you?
Yeah.
So it's about the mirror, but there's also a siren. And I'm not going to spoil a movie for people that want to watch it, but once this alarm goes off, then the thing swings down.
Yeah.
So I get done watching that in college, and as I'm brushing my teeth, it has one of those mirrors where you open it and there's a cabinet and then you shut it.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that, which I always hate doing that because you never know what's going to pop up behind you. Immediately, I shut the cabinet and the fire alarm goes off, which is the exact same alarm sound from this movie. And it scared the you-know-what out of me. And that movie in itself, just from that experience, like I will never watch it again.
That's good.
Yeah.
That freaks you out. All right, we've got the biggest question of the day next on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
I'm Andrew Marsh. It's time for a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Rangers defeated the Diamondbacks last night by a final score of 3-1 in Game 3 of the World Series. Game 4 tonight, the Diamondbacks looking to even the series up. You can catch it right here on 101 ESPN. Pregame starting at 6. Also last night in Monday Night Football, the Lions defeated the Las Vegas Raiders 26-14. We talked some NFL today as the trade deadline came and passed. If you missed anything from today's show, make sure you go to 101ESPN.com or check out the free 101 mobile app. It's all brought to you by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. The Blues will take on the Avalanche tomorrow, 7:30 pregame, 8:30 puck drop. We also talked with Joe Vitale. Once again, if you missed that interview or anything from today's show, make sure you go to 101ESPN.com or use the free 101 mobile app. We have our biggest question of the day coming up next. I'm Andrew Marsh, and the Sports Center update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
It's time for the Fast Lane's biggest question of the day.
All right, it's time for the biggest question of the day here in the Fast Lane. Dan McLaughlin filling in for Jamie Rivers. Here's Andrew Marsh.
All right, guys, we got a question yesterday about what would be in Mo's Halloween bag. The biggest question of the day today is, what would be in your St. Louis sports Halloween bag?
So this is like a treat thing, not a trick?
Good question.
Oh, wow.
Like,
you just added another layer onto this question.
So are we treating St. Louis fans?
I think so. Maybe it could be both, though.
They're not reaching in their bag and seeing that they got an apple or some of those black and orange wax candies.
Yeah.
Like go blank yourself type thing.
I think they're getting treats.
Okay. Well, I think the obvious one would be a pitcher, a starting pitcher, a bona fide, you're starting this guy opening day pitcher for the Cardinals.
Yeah, that would be my treat too. Maybe add another one if I can, so we can be gluttonous with our candy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would look at adding two, probably some guys on one-year deals after that.
Sure.
Just to round out my stomach ache.
Well, solid Reese's Peanut Butter Cup.
My favorite.
Then a couple of Kit Kats.
Yeah.
Rounded out with the Twix.
You ever had the, 10,000 grand bar or 1,000 grand?
Yeah, 1,000 grand. Marsh and I were just talking about this.
Is it 100
grand bar.
Yeah, we were talking about that before the show started. I had my first one last night.
Oh, those are good.
Those are mind.
Underrated.
They are.
So
fantastic.
Good. You guys don't like Butterfingers, do you?
I do like Butterfingers.
I like Butterfingers.
Okay. Yeah. There was a lot sitting in the office. I wasn't sure why you guys hadn't been able to dive into those.
There was more before you came in today.
Easy.
No, I'm saying we ate
them. Yeah,
we
they had a bunch. Yeah. Thank you to Jen, by the way.
Yes.
Jen sent us a massive box of candy. I think this is the second year in a row she did it. So shout out to Jen. We thank you. She said she gave us a nice note that said, thank you for always getting me home and laughing and all that stuff. Here's a box full of candy. And fortunately, Jamie was on the road last week, so Marsh and I have just demolished this box.
It's awesome, and there's a lot of candy in there too.
There's a ton. Jen hooked this up. Marsh at one point said we should probably put this box out for others, and I said, "Don't you dare! Don't you dare!"
What about a championship? I've got a couple of texts about that.
That would be nice. I would also give St. Louis City fans a dub this week.
Oh, yeah. That would be something for sure.
Preferably 2 dubs, but, let's go with 1 this weekend.
It'd be a tough way to end a great season to go out on Sunday.
Especially against them.
Do we know a start time, by the way, for this game, too?
Yeah, probably 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Knowing the MLS. Probably 2 a.m.
That was an odd
Saturday,
start
on
time.
Sunday, 2 a.m. Sunday.
Were they not wanting to go up against Sunday Night Football? Or
I don't know. I'm assuming, but that's To me, it's different audiences. I'm not saying you can't like football and soccer, but there's probably a wide gap between like people that are just going to watch soccer and people that would be interested in both. So just put the damn thing on at 7.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I agree with you. I just think you do a disservice, too, for those that are hosting it.
Absolutely.
You're a number one seed, and you're getting 9:20, and it didn't start till 9:35, something like that?
Nah. You hosed us, MLS. You hosed us real good. Thanks for the team, though. We appreciate it.
Yeah. What else you got, Marshy?
Well, that was it, wasn't it?
Oh.
It was just one question.
Okay.
I mean, well, preferably in my bag.
Yeah,
I would
Marshall,
like a big win against a good Colorado Avalanche team tomorrow night.
It'd be nice.
How about just a competitive game?
No, we need a dub.
No,
you want a dub?
We need a win. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like losing, Dan. I established that in the Gauntlet, which I lost today.
Bill. Bill's
I mean,
going for a title tomorrow.
That could be asking for a lot, though.
That's a lot of pressure on you because you got to take him on, right, Bill?
Marsh has stepped up in that spot several times and has saved us. I'm looking forward to the opportunity, Dan, to prove myself tomorrow.
Get deep in the corner, clear out the front of the net.
Yeah.
Be physical.
Bring this thing home.
Be physical with Bill.
No doubt.
But be fair.
Yes.
No cheap shots.
No, he's not going to get a cheap shot.
Last time, I believe, let's see here.
Marsh has got all of the statistics. He's incredible with this.
Yeah, I think the last time you were in a save spot, you lost.
Ooh, I don't like hearing that. Okay.
That was in June 1st.
June 1st was my last save opportunity, and I lost. Let's turn that around tomorrow.
I'll take a Kyrou power play goal.
Okay.
Kill 2 birds with 1 stone there. So Kyrou scores. He's got 1 goal on the year, and it comes on the power play.
No.
All right. Will you take that?
Absolutely.
Get him on the ice. Let him do it.
No doubt.
All right.
There you have it. That's your biggest question of the day. We'll wrap up the show.
What a question.
What you missed next on 101 ESPN. If you missed anything from today's show, you can always download the podcast at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app. It's all free. Dan McLaughlin filled in today for Jamie Rivers. Dan, Marsh had a fun show with you today. I thought it was
great,
fantastic.
guys. I'll be filling in for Jamie on Friday. So I'll be with you on Friday.
Perfect. We'll kind of
look forward to it.
To a similar format. We covered a lot of ground. We talked about the NFL trade deadline.
Yeah.
We talked about the Rangers, whether or not they're in trouble. We kind of expanded the conversation, too. Why don't teams play the same way in the regular season as they do the postseason? Some theories on that. We talked about Devontae Adams basically being held hostage by the Raiders.
Yeah.
While the Lions are just an overall fun team to kind of watch and see develop. The Blues, are they a playoff team as of right now? Marsh crapped on that idea. We expanded the conversation, though.
We sure did.
What? Has the steroid era changed the way teams view players and roster building? Played Are You Sold? NFL stock market. Talked to Joey Vitale about the Blues. Just an all-around fun show today.
We bounced all over the place.
We certainly did.
And I like doing that. That makes it fun. It's quick hitters. It's kind of like when you're listening to your radio with music. Okay, you may like one song. Let's go to the next. Then we go to the next. Then we go to the next. And we hopefully hit on what you want to talk about.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
If not, Dan's back on Friday.
Yeah. So try it again.
Talk to Little Mizzou as well.
Yeah.
All right, Marsh. Ahead of pregame for the Diamondbacks and Rangers, Game 4. Got any criticisms and compliments?
I just want to give a compliment to former Blue Paul Stasny. According to Pierre LeBrun, he has decided to retire after 17 NHL seasons.
Wow. 17?
Congrats,
How many
man.
of those are with the Blues? Probably 4, 5, 6? Any idea, Marshy?
I want to say it's 4.
What was he?
Or 4.5 because he was traded.
Man, I don't know. Maybe like 5?
That's what I was thinking. Probably half a decade was here in St. Louis.
Let's look this up. He was with the Blues 1, 2, 3, 4 seasons. He was traded. 3.5. He was traded in the 4th season to the Winnipeg Jets.
Makes sense. Mm-hmm. All right.
Paul Stastny.
How many points did he wind up with, Marshy? How many games?
Let's see here. Well, the one that I'm on right now, Hockey DB, there is no cumulative for the Blues, but he did...
No, I mean total.
Oh, total?
Yeah.
1,145 games NHL total.
It's a hell of a career.
Not bad for the former Chaminade.
Yeah, how about that?
293 goals, 529 assists.
Ooh, he stopped at 293, not to get to 300.
Damn it. Great career nonetheless.
I had the over on 300.
Did you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That was from 7 years ago.
Call him up. Say, hey, you owe me.
Maybe he gets it, though, if the NHL doesn't have their lockout.
Oh, for sure he does.
Or maybe the pandemic year, too.
Yeah, that's another good point.
There you go.
Sorry, Dan.
All right, I'm over it.
Okay.
By the way, from the 573, we were talking about the 100 grand bars. 573 says, did you hear the radio contest done many years ago? It was about a winner, 100 grand. They never said candy bar. When the contestant found out it was a candy bar he won, he went off. LMAO.
I don't blame him for that.
I don't either.
That's dirty.
By the way, what are your Halloween plans? You got youngsters at home?
We're going to take them over to my mother-in-law's house. She's got some tradition. She gets a little chili going. Eat some chili, fill it up, take out the kids.
Awesome.
Yeah, they do great. Maddie is a witch this year.
Awesome. I love it. I love hearing these stories.
Killian's a Batman, full muscled out Batman.
Neat.
He gets Killian runs hot. You know,
that's
those
a great
kids,
name, Killian.
Well, thank you. You know, some of these kids that are always, even some adults, like they're always wearing shorts and stuff. Even in the winter, they just run hot.
Yeah,
that's Killian. The poor kid's in this Batman outfit. It looks awesome. But I wonder how he did today in school.
Probably not well.
I
would have bet today is a tough day for like grade school teachers.
Yeah.
Because every kid is not paying attention. I don't care if they're brainiacs. They're not paying attention.
And they sent out a long list of, hey, don't wear masks and don't bring props and all that stuff. But you know these kindergarten teachers especially are having Okay. Oh, you're hot too. All right, take it off.
You know I love baseball.
Yes.
So as a kid, I had a full summer where I had a full uniform that I never took off.
Did you?
It was the wool hat, old wool uniform. And
That's incredible.
Played wiffle ball in it every single day of my life that summer.
So mom is doing a lot of laundry.
A lot of laundry.
Yeah.
Gave a couple days off.
Yeah.
But that thing was like, I'd go into my room and the thing looked at me and was like, really?
Really again?
We're going to do this again?
You got no other choices?
Come on, man.
I've seen the dresser. You got plenty of choices.
Get into the shorts. Let's go. The pants talk to me like, really? Come on.
Did you have the high socks too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's a great look. Like the old school baseball
for a full summer.
That's awesome.
My neighbors gave me trouble about it. I didn't care. I was like 8 years old.
That flat hat.
Yep.
What I'm picturing right now, and there's plenty. I mean, you go like the natural and stuff like that, but for whatever reason, I'm picturing Tom Hanks from League of Their Own with that flat hat, high socks.
It was a cross between that and the natural. Yeah,
I like it.
Just didn't play like him. That was the problem.
Hey, that's okay.
A lot of swings and misses along the way.
It happens.
But it was fun.
That's great.
I just got a picture real quickly, Marshy, of my wife goes, hey, throw back to 2015. It's my kids about your kids' age.
Yeah.
Almost brought a tear to my eye.
Yeah. I'm going to soak it up.
Almost started crying.
I'm going to soak it up.
You should. It's awesome.
My littlest one, too, Lincoln, he loves coloring, so we got him a crayon outfit.
Oh, yeah.
He's a crayon. He's got the blue,
That's awesome.
But he was yelling at us. He only knows a couple of words. He's going to be 2 on Saturday, but he said he wants to be a ghost. So we asked him, "Why do you want to be the crayon?" He's ghost. So I think
he's not a crayon anymore?
Well, I think Kristen had to go home and basically make a ghost outfit for him because he wasn't happy.
Young John Miller, ghost.
I got ghost.
Last thing here before we get out, Swan says, great show today, guys. I missed yesterday's show. How did last week's matchup go in the Pick'em Challenge against the Riz Show? I hope it was a win.
In some respects, maybe. It's a tie, so it doesn't hurt us, and we have the lead at 5-2, so now it's 5-1.
Mm-hmm.
The Riz Show not happy. Now, this was the same team that a year ago Dan said, we're good with Trey, we're good with ties, we're good with ties, so we're fine with ties. And then they were saying, hey, well, we need to settle a winner here. No, you were good with the ties last year, so
let's keep it.
We'll just stick with that.
Yeah.
Anyways. So we do have, again, Diamondbacks Rangers Game 4 pregame at 6 o'clock. Dan, always great to see you, and we'll see you again on Friday.
Sounds great. Thanks.
Thank you to Andrew Marsh, and we're going to be back tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Jamie, hopefully feeling a little bit better for tomorrow. He'll be back with us. But again, we've got Diamondbacks Rangers pregame starting right now. See you.